Chapter 524. Unlin felt like 10,000 alpacas were stampeding over his heart. Never would he have thought that he would be in the Void Star section. If he were to wander around in a dangerous place like this, he might not even know how he would die. To think that he could fly for over 1,500 kilometers without thinking. How lucky! The battle between the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator and the Crimson Bird was earth-shattering. All types of powerful techniques were being unleashed, and the onlookers were dazzled. Thankfully, Unlin was wearing the illusionary star robe, which allowed him to conceal his aura and avoid detection. Even though the illusionary star robe couldn't provide absolute concealment like it could against star beasts, it was still able to conceal one's aura and avoid detection from long-range divine sense detection. Shuezhantian stared at the battle in the distance with an expression of yearning on his face as he lay in Unlin's arms. This is how men should fight. Every single move they make can shake the heavens. Just as he was speaking, the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator had already sliced off one of the Crimson Bird's wings, and crimson blood splattered through the air. However, the blood was not evaporated by the boundless flames. Instead, it suddenly materialized into a crimson sword, which pierced through the air and instantly punctured the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator's chest. Brutal! As a seasoned spectator, Unlin could roughly determine that the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator and the Crimson Bird were both at the Return to Void initial stage. The spell technique resonated with heaven and earth very strongly, but they weren't very proficient in the use of space. Guardian Tai Chu, Night Death. The Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator raised his black saber high into the air, and dark clouds instantly gathered within a radius of 5 kilometers as a faint black light pierced through the clouds. The hair on Unlin's body stood on end, and he hurriedly retreated with all his might. The Crimson Bird's body squirmed as it tried to fuse back its severed wing. However, it was given a huge fright by the terrifying spell technique unleashed by the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator, and it immediately activated its flaming wings to the maximum. A flaming phoenix over 10,000 feet in length spread its wings before pouncing toward the Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator with a sea of flames around it. The Dark-Winged Tribe Cultivator's saber fell, and the black clouds in the sky surged as the massive saber descended with terrifying power. At that moment, the world seemed to fall into eternal darkness, without a trace of color. The light of the flaming phoenix clashed with the darkness of the black saber projection, and the terrifying shock waves pulverized the ground within a radius of several kilometers. As the light and darkness clashed, Unlin was also struck by the shock waves, and even the hood of his illusionary star robe was blown away. Fortunately, he retreated quickly and was not injured. The blade beam finally tore through the flaming phoenix and landed on the Crimson Bird's body. The black light swept past the Crimson Bird's body, causing it to let out a cry. When the black light dissipated and Unlin saw the Crimson Bird again, its body had been sliced in half from the middle. The crimson feathers on its body were growing dimmer and dimmer. It was clear that its life force had been severed. The male from the Dark-Winged Tribe stood in the air, his face slightly pale, and blood continued to flow from the gaping hole in his chest. Master! This was a heaven-sent opportunity. The Black-Winged Man is already at the end of his tether, so let's go up and kill him now. Shuezhantian suddenly became very excited as he squirmed around in Unlin's arms. Unlin chuckled lightly. You want to land the killing blow? Use your life to make up for it? Don't underestimate the power of Return to Void stage mighty figures. As long as they're still alive, they have many ways to kill us. His voice had only just fallen when he saw the male from the Dark-Winged Tribe turn toward him. The male carried his massive saber, and a hint of astonishment appeared on his face as he stared at Unlin. Unlin blinked before asking Shuezhantian, He's looking at me? Shuezhantian replied, Perhaps he's looking at me. After all, I'm so adorable. Unlin touched the hood of his illusionary star robe. Could it be that his hood had been blown off by the strong winds, so he was unable to conceal his aura? No. This was not the time to think about this. Unlin suddenly came to a realization, and he drew a sharp intake of breath. F***ck. Right now, he was being targeted by a return to void stage mighty figure. Unlin's first thought was to run. Run as fast as he could. However, before he had a chance to do anything, the male from the Dark Wing tribe had already pulled out a portrait from his storage ring. The male looked at the portrait, then at Unlin, upon which he drew a sharp intake of breath in shock. Unlin looked at the male with a perplexed expression, but the male shuddered as he stumbled back a couple of steps with an expression of shock and horror on his face. Unlin. The male from the Dark Wing tribe immediately tore open a spatial rift and rushed into the spatial gate before completely disappearing from this world. The return to void stage mighty figure of the Dark Wing tribe escaped? Unlin's lips twitched upon seeing this. He looked around with a confused expression, but he didn't find anything to be afraid of. Why is he running so fast? Is he afraid of me? Little Tian, am I that scary? Unlin couldn't help but ask. Shui Zhantian flared up with rage. I'm Shui Zhantian, the mighty and domineering Shui Zhantian. Don't call me Little Tian. The veins on Unlin's forehead bulged. Who's calling you Little Tian? Don't become a pervert all of a sudden. You still haven't answered my question. Am I that scary? Why do I feel like the male from the Dark Wing tribe fled because he was afraid of me? Shui Zhantian was clearly a little perplexed, and after a moment of silence, he replied, I'm not scary. Master, you haven't even unleashed your domineering aura yet. Could it be that he was scared away by my mighty and domineering aura? Unlin's chest constricted. He felt like discussing this with Shui Zhantian was bullsh*t. A thought suddenly occurred to him, and he looked toward the corpse of the crimson bird at the center of the sea of flames that was gradually being extinguished. Unlin rushed over and began to loot the corpse. Sure enough, a ring-like spatial storage magic tool was pulled out by him. Shui Zhantian was astonished. Holy F***ck. Unbelievable! Unbelievable! That male was so scared that he didn't even have time to pick up the item before running away? Master, you. An indescribable sense of respect welled up in his heart as he looked at the male before him. He didn't really think that he had scared away the black-winged male. Only Master could have scared him away. Master's power seemed to be even more unfathomable than he had imagined. At the same time, the space within a vast expanse of black sea was torn open, and a pale-faced male carrying a massive saber emerged before looking at the shrinking spatial rift with lingering fear in his eyes. Thank God he didn't come after me. Otherwise, I, Dao Yi, would have died in the void star section. He heaved a light sigh of relief as he shook his head. As expected of Unlin, who killed the Dark Night Monarch and left even the Moonlit Night Monarch completely helpless against him. To think that he was able to sneak up on me and appear when I was at my weakest, that final gaze. That gaze that was filled with indifference toward all life was truly terrifying. Thank God I ran away decisively, and he didn't unleash any killing intent toward me. Otherwise, I really would have been screwed. Dao Yi wiped the sweat from his forehead, and a faint smile appeared on his face as he praised himself for being quick-witted. He thought to himself for a moment before tearing open the spatial rift again. He still wasn't far enough. He had to get further away. Chapter 525. Unlin flew along with Shui Zhantian. Such an intense battle could attract the attention of other powerful beings, so they had to move quickly. Unlin flew aimlessly for several dozen kilometers before finally finding a small mountain. He immediately used a spell technique to blast a huge hole into the mountain before laying low for the night. It's time to check the spoils of war. Unlin smiled with a buoyant smile. Unlin was extremely grateful toward the Dark Wing tribe Cultivator. After all, he had given all of his spoils of war to Unlin after battling the Crimson Bird to the death. What a good man! That Dark Wing tribe Cultivator really was a good man. Unlin brought out his most recent spoils of war, which consisted of a Snow Maiden storage ring, 2 Dragon Tribe storage rings, and a Crimson Bird storage ring. Of course, he had to start with the poorest, so Enlin refined the Snow Maiden storage ring first. He wanted to curse out loud. Holy F***CK. 120,000 spirit stones, 2 intermediate rank spirit tools, 1 spirit fruit, and a bunch of miscellaneous items. There wasn't even a single realm essence crystal. How poor. A soul formation stage Snow Maiden was so poor. The spirit fruit was a 4th grade ice-type spirit fruit. Enlin thought for a moment before giving it to Shuejantian. He then refined the 2 Dragon Tribe storage rings, upon which he was astonished again. This was because he had obtained a total of 1,200,000 spirit stones, 15 spirit tools, 20 spirit fruits, 2 7th grade immortal fruits, 1 golden realm essence crystal, 1 red realm essence crystal, 10 green realm essence crystals, and 52 white realm essence crystals. The 2 7th grade immortal fruits were called Furious Dragon Fruits, which could enhance one's constitution and increase one's stamina in battle for a short period of time. This soul formation stage Dragon Tribe storage ring was comparable to the wealth of a Return to Void stage Snow Maiden, and Lin couldn't help but feel a little sympathetic toward Hong Do and Ling Ying. He wondered what their expressions would be like after refining the Snow Maiden storage rings. Finally, he began to refine the Return to Void stage Crimson Bird storage ring. That Crimson Bird was most likely a Return to Void stage mighty figure from the southern Heavenly Wing Nation, so it was an enemy to him. As such, he didn't feel much sympathy toward it. Instead, he began to refine it with an expectant expression. 1,060,000 spirit stones, 6 high-rank spirit tools, 21 spirit pills, 1 immortal pill, 2 immortal fruits, 2 golden realm essence crystals, 9 blue realm essence crystals, 25 white realm essence crystals, as well as a bunch of tool refinement materials and miscellaneous items. The immortal pill was a Tier 6 immortal pill, the True Dipper Soul Recovery Pill. It had a strong effect on repairing damaged souls. The immortal fruit was a 5th grade immortal fruit, the 6 Revolution Phoenix fruit. When consumed by a user with a fire-type bloodline, it would aid in the comprehension of the Tao of Fire. On top of that, it would strengthen and purify the fire-type bloodline. This immortal fruit was quite suitable for Xiaolan. After exploring the ancient Tai Chu realm for so long, there was finally a presentable present. Finally, and most importantly, he had gathered all the Golden Realm Essence crystals. 2 Crimson Bird Realm Essence crystals, 1 Dragon Realm Essence crystal, and 3 Realm Essence crystals in his bag. In addition to the 4 Golden Realm Essence crystals he had absorbed earlier, he had collected all 10 Golden Realm Essence crystals, and he could finally complete his mission. And Lin looked up into the sky, and he was so moved that he was on the verge of tears. His threat of becoming a eunuch had finally been resolved. Wasn't being a eunuch for 100 years scary? How could he not be scared when he was faced with the possibility of becoming a eunuch? Little Tian, protect me. And Lin immediately pulled out the Golden Realm Essence crystals and began the absorption process. Shuejantian pursed his lips with a displeased expression, but he still obediently flapped his little wings and flew in front of Enlin before cautiously sensing the situation outside the cave. There were 6 Golden Realm Essence crystals, and each Golden Realm Essence crystal took an average of 1 hour to absorb. Hence, it took Enlin 6 hours to completely absorb all the Realm Essence crystals. Time passed by slowly, and Enlin could sense a special energy circulating within his body. However, he was unable to use this energy, and he could only allow it to circulate within his body. The absorption process was very smooth, and there were no unexpected occurrences. After absorbing the last Golden Realm Essence crystal, his system began to chime with a ding-dong. Congratulations, host, for completing your mission. Now begin materializing the embryonic body of the war god. Boom! An enormous amount of energy exploded within his body, and the energy from the 10 golden realm essence crystals that had been absorbed into his body was completely activated. At the same time, all of the cultivation methods within his body also began to circulate on their own. Thunder Essence Cultivation Method, Earth Lotus Supreme Skill Cultivation Method, Wind Spirit Cultivation Method, Evergreen Technique, Divine Liquid Creation Technique, Wings of True Fire Cultivation Method. What kind of experience would it be to circulate all of these cultivation methods at the same time? And Lin felt that this was an extremely exhilarating feeling. It was an exhilarating feeling. In the past, he didn't have the ability to circulate all of these cultivation methods at the same time. However, now that he was able to materialize his body of the war god, he had the opportunity to do so. At this moment, he felt extremely powerful. The 5 elements began to materialize. The true intent of metal refined his muscles and bones, the true intent of wood refined his organs, the true intent of water refined his blood, the true intent of fire refined his meridians, and the true intent of earth refined the surface of his body. The powers of the 5 elements each performed their own functions, but they also fused together, and an extremely vast aura began to proliferate outward. Shui Zhantian was given a fright by this terrifying aura, and he turned to look at Enlin to find that Enlin was meditating on the ground. 5 different types of powers circulated around his body in a mystical manner that resonated with the Tao of heaven and earth. That wasn't all. The true intent of wind and lightning began to fuse into Enlin's sea of vital energy. Lightning flashed, thunder rumbled, and wind and rain intertwined. His sea of vital energy began to expand, and the amount of vital energy in his body continued to increase. And Kiran began to whoosh with joy. He felt as if his house had expanded from 80 square meters to over 100 square meters. At the same time, the power of soul cultivation surged into Enlin's consciousness, and his senses became even more powerful. An ancient golden seal flashed on Enlin's forehead, and a domineering aura erupted forth, striking Shui Zhantian with the urge to kneel down. My master really is the most powerful. This peerless aura, this unstoppable aura. How intoxicating. Shui Zhantian's body trembled as tears welled up in his eyes. He was on the verge of tears, and it was hard to tell whether he was on the verge of tears from excitement or from emotion. The ancient golden seal disappeared. Enlin opened his eyes, which were as dazzling as the stars in the sky, and he heaved a long sigh of relief. A faint smile appeared on his face as he sensed the power within his body. I am invincible. Shui Zhantian was also extremely excited. Master, when are we going to ravage the heavens? Enlin, try and hit me. Enlin cracked his neck from side to side before waving a hand at Shui Zhantian. Shui Zhantian's body shuddered. Master, I'm not mentally prepared. Enlin's lips twitched. Why would you need to be mentally prepared to hit someone? I won't retaliate. So you're not going to retaliate? You should have said so earlier. Shui Zhantian heaved a sigh of relief as his aura began to surge explosively. It would be a waste not to attack at a time like this. A frosty aura enveloped Shui Zhantian's entire body, and he transformed into a streak of blue light before crashing toward Enlin's chest with devastating force. Boom! Enlin's body was blasted through the entire mountain by the massive force, and he only stopped after flying back several hundred meters. Holy Mother of God! My head hurts. Shui Zhantian wobbled his round body as he grumbled. Enlin's blood churned as he sustained some minor injuries. His eyes were extremely bright. In the past, if he were to be rammed by Shui Zhantian, who was at the pinnacle of the true power stage, his internal organs would definitely have been damaged, and he would have thrown up a mouthful of blood. However, he had only sustained some minor injuries now. A physique like this was definitely invincible among soul formation stage cultivators. Enlin clenched his fists as a joyful smile appeared on his face. I'm so powerful! Chapter 526. and Lin was feeling a little smug at his newfound strength. Just the embryonic body of the war god alone was already this powerful. If he had the complete body of the war god, then wouldn't he be super bad *SS? And Lin shook his head and decided not to dwell on these useless thoughts. He was a man who liked to keep a low profile and keep a low profile. It didn't matter to him whether he was bad *SS or not. What mattered was that he had inner qualities. With that in mind, he pulled out a white bead from his storage ring. That's right, this was the Ming Yuan bead that sword immortal Ming Yuan had given him. It could determine the wearer's fortune for a period of 10 days. Now that he was no longer in danger of becoming a eunuch, he had attained a divine cultivation technique, and he had also survived the heaven and earth collapse. It was time to examine the results. And Lin injected his vital energy into the Ming Yuan bead, and a powerful suction force engulfed his energy, causing his body to collapse. At the same time, a ripple proliferated outward before merging into heaven and earth. The Ming Yuan bead began to glow red before slowly turning purple. At this moment, Lin felt like he was about to throw up a mouthful of blood. Why did this happen? He had just survived a tribulation to make his life a better one, so why was it still so red? Lin stowed the Ming Yuan bead away before pulling out a golden badge. As long as he activated this golden teleportation badge, he would be able to return to the celestial court. Perhaps he would be able to avoid the impending tribulation there. No. He suddenly came to a realization. Things couldn't be this simple. As if realizing something, he turned toward his system to see if there were any new missions. His body shuddered upon seeing this. Holy F***CK. F***CK. The Special Mission tab was glowing again. Special Mission. Congratulations to host for attaining the embryonic body of the war god. The following mission is now assigned. In order to further enhance the body of the war god, please absorb 10 times 10 Golden Realm Essence crystals within a year. Mission success. Attain initial success in the body of the war god. Mission failure. 100 times 100 years. Note: this mission cannot be rejected. Lin. F***CKU system. F***CKU. Lin let loose a torrent of abuse. Shui Zhantian's body shuddered. Master, this name doesn't sound good. Just call me Xiao Tian. Also, what did I do wrong? Why did you scold me? Lin's face darkened. I'm not talking about you. Shui Zhantian was at a complete loss, and he looked around before blinking in confusion. Was there anyone else here besides him? Lin almost fainted when he saw the system's mission. Absorb 100 Golden Realm Essence crystals. Where the F***CK would there be so many Realm Essence crystals for him to absorb? If these Golden Realm Essence crystals were converted into Spirit Stones, they would be worth 100 million Spirit Stones. Furthermore, if he failed the mission, he would have to become a eunuch for 10,000 years. Also, why did this despicable calculation of 10 times 10 and 100 times 100 feel so familiar? Next time, would it be calculated by the power of the square? Lin was seething with anger, his whole body trembling. It suddenly occurred to him that if he failed the mission, he would become Taoist companions with Su Xiaolan 100 years later, and then he would not be able to have intercourse with Su Xiaolan for 9,900 years. No. Under such circumstances, Su Xiaolan would definitely dump him. With this in mind, tears streamed down his face. F***CKU system. Lin's eyes were bloodshot as he let loose another torrent of abuse. Shui Zhantian stared at Lin with shock and horror on his face. Had Master gone insane? After a long while, Lin finally repressed his emotions and released his divine sense into the Crimson Bird's spatial storage magic tool. There was no point in complaining. The only thing he could do now was to find more Golden Realm Essence crystals. He had found a massive map among the miscellaneous items in the storage space. He pulled out the map from his storage space and carefully examined it. After a short while, a faint smile of elation appeared on his face. This was a map of the Void Star section. And Lin didn't have a map of the Void Star section before. After all, he was going to the Ancient Divine Division, and he wasn't going to waste his time researching a map that had nothing to do with him. It was exactly because of this that he discovered that he was completely blind after arriving in the Void Star section. This map was like a pillow delivered to him when he was dozing off, and it just so happened to solve his most pressing problem. The terrain outlined on this map had been drawn up using the information of the past explorers of the ancient Tai Chu realm of the southern Heavenly Wing Nation. All types of areas and potential dangers were marked on the map. Although it wasn't completely detailed, it gave him a rough idea of the Void Star section. The brightest red star in the night sky is located north, and we're currently at the purple grassland. It's located in the western region of the 9 tectonic plates of the Void Star section. Further west is the Black Sea, and to the north is the White Jade Mountain. The probability of realm essence crystals appearing on the White Jade Mountain is very high, but there are also jade beasts there, so it's very dangerous. And Lin looked at the map before deciding to go to the White Jade Mountain for no other reason than the realm essence crystals. In order to not become a eunuch for 10,000 years, he had to fight. He put on his illusionary star robe and used a spell technique to secure his robe so that he wouldn't be discovered by the Dark Wing tribe Cultivator again. Huh? Am I imagining things? Why do I feel like my pocket is a little full? And Lin blinked curiously as he looked down at his pocket. You're not imagining things, it's squeezing into me. Shui Zhantian protested. And Lin pulled out the silver ball from his pocket with an expression of surprise on his face. It's really big. The silver ball was originally only about 3 centimeters in diameter, but it was now a full 10 centimeters in diameter. You liar! How dare you say fairies aren't oviparous? Even the eggs have grown bigger. Shui Zhantian protested. And Lin had nothing to say, and he could only put the silver ball into an even larger pocket before setting off. The purple grassland was extremely vast, and Lin flew relentlessly through the air. There was nothing but grass around him. After 4 hours, he was still unable to see the end of the grassland. Holy F***ck, this is way too big. And Lin was a little dumbstruck as he looked around at the vast expanse of purple grass around him. The map didn't specify a scale, so Lin didn't know how big this grassland was. All he knew was that this was a special region in the Void Star section. Thankfully, the stars in the sky could guide him. Otherwise, he really would get lost in this vast grassland. And Lin continued to fly, and after another 2 hours, he discovered that the purple grass on the ground was showing signs of wilting. The vibrant purple color gradually dimmed, and its surface was wrinkled and shriveled, giving it a pale and colorless appearance. Ever since he had attained the embryonic body of the war god, his perception of life force had reached a new level. As such, he could roughly sense that the life force of these purple grass was being stripped away by some kind of power, and the direction in which this life force was being stripped away was toward the northeast. And Lin hesitated momentarily, but he still decided to go and investigate. In order to be on the safe side, he cast a few concealment spell techniques on himself and Shui Zhantian before landing on the ground and carefully running forward. The closer they got to the center of the flow of life force, the more wilted the purple grass on the ground became. After traveling for over 50 kilometers, the ground had already become barren and barren. Could it be that some kind of rare treasure had appeared? And Lin was starting to get a little excited. Generally speaking, anything that could cause such a massive change in heaven and earth couldn't be simple. Such a peaceful environment didn't seem to be the result of a battle between mighty figures. Then, it was even more likely that a treasure had caused this. Chapter 527. And Lin continued to draw closer and closer to where the vitality was flowing. Soon, he saw a red dot of light flickering in the distance. The ground was littered with dead grass, all of which had been sucked dry of their vitality and were plastered to the ground like charcoal. Upon closer inspection, he discovered that the red dot of light was a crimson jade coffin, and the vitality of the grassland was constantly converging into this coffin. And Lin stared at the coffin with bewilderment and didn't dare to move recklessly. Could it be that this coffin was a rare treasure? He wasn't sure. This was because this coffin could have been placed here by some mighty figure to conduct some kind of mysterious ritual. If there was an extremely powerful being lying inside, then that would be 2F** King Rude. He pondered for a moment before his storage ring flashed, and 2 shiny silver humanoid Gundams appeared on the ground. You guys go open that coffin and see what's inside. At a time like this, the 2 Gundams were very useful as meat shields. Whoosh! The 2 Gundams flew toward the red coffin. Boom! When they were still about 100 meters away from the coffin, they were suddenly attacked by a terrifying power. A red beam of light materialized in the air before crashing into the 2 Gundams' bodies like a pillar of light, caving in on their sturdy alloy bodies. The Gundams flew back several hundred meters like cannonballs after being struck by the immense force. Thankfully, they were quite resilient and they crawled back to their feet after rolling a few times on the ground. Huh? There's a spell formation here? That's way too well hidden, I didn't even notice it when I was so close to it. And Lin exclaimed in surprise as his eyes turned snowy white as he surveyed the space around the coffin. A series of extremely complex veined patterns appeared before his eyes. This was a small spell formation, but it was extremely complex. For a normal cultivator, breaking this spell formation would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. It was a pity that Lin had the divine inspection technique. A realm-piercing nail appeared in the air before whizzing toward a certain spot in space. Boom! The space tremored violently again, and the spell formation crumbled. The 2 Gundams took this opportunity to pounce toward the red coffin again. They placed their hands on the coffin in an attempt to lift the lid, only to find that they were completely unable to do so. And Lin, what do I need you for? He discovered that the 2 Gundams were becoming less and less durable after he became more and more powerful. They couldn't fight, and now they couldn't even move a coffin lid. Next time, would they have to implant a small program to let them shout 666? Just as he was thinking about this, the blood jade coffin lid suddenly shot up into the sky. And Lin jumped in fright. At this moment, a black shadow leaped out at an extremely fast speed. A cold light shot towards one of the Gundams with the force of lightning. It was a sharp tooth. Crack! The black shadow opened its mouth and bit at the Gundam's neck. Then, a tooth was knocked out by the metal neck. And Lin could vaguely see the bitterness on her pale face under her long blonde hair. The 2 Gundams didn't even have a chance to retaliate before the black shadow leaped back into the coffin. Rumble! The lid of the coffin that shot into the sky fell down again, sealing the coffin. Everything returned to silence, as if the coffin had never been opened. And Lin, Master, that person is so pitiful. Even his canine teeth are gone. Shui Zhantian also had a pair of canine teeth, so he was a little sympathetic toward the Gundams. And Lin massaged his brows. Those aren't canine teeth, they're blood-sucking teeth. The identity of the coffin had been confirmed. This was a F** King treasure. This was a F** King resting place for a blood tribe mighty figure. However, that blood tribe mighty figure seemed to be a little weak. Gundam 1 and Gundam 2's alloy armor had high defensive capabilities, but it shouldn't have been able to bite through their teeth. Taking a step back, Lin could tell that the Gundams weren't going to taste good just by looking at their hard and stiff bodies. Was there something wrong with this mighty figure's head? Sucking life force, coffin, weak strength, delirious, Lin pieced together all of this information to form a rough picture of what had happened. Perhaps this blood tribe mighty figure had been severely wounded, so he was lying in the coffin to recover, and the method of recovery was to absorb the life force of the purple grassland. That must be it. Lin's eyes lit up as he stared at the crimson jade coffin with a scorching light in his eyes. When dealing with an enemy, one had to strike while they were down. What was there to be afraid of when even the two Gundams couldn't take him down? Besides, he was the Poison Lord, the nemesis of the Blood Tribe. Lin felt like he was in the bag this time. The two Gundams continued to lift the lid of the coffin, but no matter how hard they tried, they were unable to lift it. After that, under Lin's instructions, they attacked the coffin with particle swords, laser cannons, and dark purple dragon flames. However, the coffin remained unscathed no matter what they did. Lin chuckled coldly. "Do you think I can't do anything to you just because you're hiding in your turtle shell?" He also began to slowly approach the crimson jade coffin. The coffin glowed with a dazzling red light, and it was clear that it was still sucking life force. The crimson jade was semi-transparent, and through the lid of the coffin, Lin could see a curvaceous, golden-haired woman in a black robe. Her eyes were closed, and she was sleeping peacefully, as if she were a sleeping beauty. "Let me wake you up, little beauty." A sly smile appeared on Lin's face as he stroked the cold coffin. Shui Zhantian's body shuddered. He suddenly felt like his master was the antagonist. Lin thought for a moment before deciding to use the normal method to open the coffin. He placed his hands on the edge of the coffin and tried to lift the lid with his power, only to find that the coffin lid had fused together with the coffin, and the coffin had fused together with the earth around it. Even after using all of his power, the coffin remained completely motionless. Lin drew his evil-slaying sword, and an earth-shattering black light burst forth from the blade as he slashed down. An extremely sharp sword projection struck the crimson jade coffin, and the resulting shock waves tore open the earth for over a kilometer. The web between Lin's thumb and forefinger almost split open from the impact. He looked down at his evil-slaying sword to find that it had only managed to leave an extremely small crack in the crimson jade coffin, and the crack healed after a few seconds. Great Holy Flame, Demonic Star Flame, Heavenly Void Flame, and Setting Moon Flame. The four divine flames enshrouded the entire crimson jade coffin, and terrifying temperatures roasted the coffin relentlessly. How does this steamer coffin feel?" Lin asked with a sinister smile. Within the coffin, the sleeping golden-haired woman finally opened her eyes, and she stared at Lin with her crimson eyes. Her expression remained calm and tranquil. Liquid-like ripples suddenly appeared on the surface of the crimson jade coffin, and it seemed to be resisting the invasion of the divine flames. Lin was very elated. The sleeping beauty had woken up and was resisting, which meant that his divine flames were working, and he immediately increased the intensity of the flames. Chapter 528. The four divine flames caused the air around them to twist and warp. An indescribably high temperature enveloped the crimson jade coffin, but the blood tribe woman within the coffin remained completely indifferent, and there wasn't even a single drop of sweat on her forehead. One had to realize that even Lin was sweating profusely. 15 minutes later, Lin had almost depleted all of his energy, and he was panting heavily as the divine flame roasted him. He had to conserve some energy in case the blood tribe woman within the coffin suddenly attacked. Lin swallowed a blood spirit pill and stared at the crimson jade coffin with a slightly pained expression. The corners of the woman's mouth curled up slightly as a mocking smile appeared on her pale face. The crimson jade coffin glowed with a bright red light once again, and it seemed to be absorbing the vitality of the purple grassland at an even faster rate. Lin stood beside the crimson jade coffin with a helpless expression. If he allowed the blood tribe mighty figure within the coffin to recover, the roles of the prey and the hunter would change when the coffin lid was lifted. Should he leave now? Lin was a little reluctant. After all, this was the best opportunity to land the killing blow, as well as the fastest way to obtain Golden Realm Essence Crystals. Was there a faster way to obtain Realm Essence Crystals than to kill someone and steal their treasures? At least not in Lin's eyes. She was a return to void stage mighty figure who had risked her life for close to 10 days in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Just as Enlin was hesitating, Shui Zhantian's stomach suddenly rumbled. Master, I'm going to relieve myself first. Shui Zhantian flapped his wings and flew into the air. Relieve yourself for what? Enlin blinked with curiosity. I ate an ice-type spirit fruit too quickly, and the ice blade was too strong, so my stomach isn't feeling too good. I have a bit of diarrhea. Shui Zhantian explained sheepishly. Enlin's lips twitched. This was the first time he had heard of someone getting diarrhea from eating a spirit fruit. But all of a sudden, his eyes lit up as a brilliant idea floated into his mind. Little Tian. A mysterious smile appeared on Enlin's face. I'm here. Shui Zhantian swallowed nervously. He didn't know what his master was thinking about. Didn't you want to relieve yourself? Just do it here. Enlin pointed at the lid of the crimson jade coffin with a sinister smile. Shui Zhantian, Master, do you think I'm a shameless snow soul beast? Shui Zhantian glowered at Enlin with a furious expression. Enlin shook his head. You're not. You're a powerful being who is fearless in order to win. You're a fearless being who you are. After you succeed, you'll be rewarded with 5 spirit fruits. Enlin raised the stakes once again. So be it. I'm not defecating in front of other snow soul beasts anyway. I'm defecating in front of a blood tribe cultivator. Shui Zhantian flew toward the crimson jade coffin with a heroic expression on his face. That's right, what it was doing now was the same as a human defecating in the wild in front of a group of wild beasts. Since they were of different species, the sense of shame would be much lower. Little Tian, move a little closer. That's right, aim at her head. That's it. Shui Zhantian finally got into position under Enlin's guidance. Shui Zhantian hovered 10 centimeters above the crimson jade coffin, and his fluffy white fur parted slightly to reveal a small hole. Then, the indifferent expression on the blood tribe woman's face disappeared. Her beautiful eyes were wide open, and there was a hint of terror and incredulity on her exquisite but pale face. At that moment, gray excrement began to pour down. Can you imagine someone shitting on your head? Even though it was a translucent coffin, the experience was still extremely terrifying. Shame, humiliation, disgust. Countless negative emotions assaulted him. This was a terrifying mental blow. Finally, the vampire lady exploded. Rumble! The lid of the coffin suddenly exploded, sending Shui Zhantian flying into the sky. I want you dead. The blood tribe woman let out an enraged roar, and her white hands formed claws as she pounced toward Enlin at a terrifying speed. Her fingers tore through the air in lethal crimson trajectories, threatening to tear Enlin's body apart. Enlin was already prepared, and he had already unleashed his wind sword the moment the lid of the coffin exploded. Hence, he was even faster than the blood tribe woman in that instant. He dodged to the side to evade the blood tribe woman's crimson finger projection, and his evil slaying sword slashed a peerlessly sharp white line toward the woman's waist. The evil slaying sword sliced through the woman's black robe, and a line of blood appeared on her fair skin. So fast, the blood tribe woman's heart jolted with shock. She didn't think that a soul formation stage cultivator would be able to unleash such a fast attack. However, against a soul formation stage cultivator, she had 100 ways to easily kill him. The two of them passed by each other, and the blood tribe woman came out on top in their first clash. However, when she turned to look at Enlin, she had already extended a hand toward Enlin and made a grabbing motion. The space within a radius of over 1,000 feet instantly congealed. This was a spatial seal that only returned to void stage mighty figures could master. Enlin's body was also immobilized in that instant. A smile appeared on the blood tribe woman's face. A mere soul formation stage cultivator like you wants to defeat me? You're far too naive. Even if I'm severely wounded, I can still defeat you in the blink of an eye. Gotcha! A cracking sound suddenly erupted, and a red streak of light pierced through the air, pulverizing the spatial seal before puncturing the Blood Tribe woman's head. How could this be? The Blood Tribe woman stared at Lin with incredulity on her face. Lin immediately turned around and charged toward the woman's face again as his evil-slaying sword fell mercilessly. Like a ghost, the woman retreated backward and quickly calmed her mind. As expected of a return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figure, her life force was terrifyingly powerful. Even after her head had been punctured by the realm-piercing nail, she was still very much alive and kicking. Furthermore, she was still able to materialize a crimson sword in her hands to defend against Lin's attack. You're only a return to Void stage mighty figure. Your spatial manipulation is rusty and weak, and even your strength and speed are suppressed by me. Are you a return to Void stage guardian? Lin taunted as he attacked. The Blood Tribe woman's chest heaved with rage, and she glowered at Lin with her almond-shaped eyes. She let loose a clear cry, and the blood energy within her body surged explosively. She had been forced to unleash a mystic technique. Whoosh! Her body transformed into a streak of crimson light before crashing into the evil-slaying sword. Lin was knocked flying by a powerful force, and as he flew through the air, the Blood Tribe woman had already pounced toward Lin at an even faster speed. She bared her sharp white teeth and bit down toward Lin's neck. Lin could feel the blood within his body being sucked violently. He didn't think that the woman would still be so ferocious even with a broken tooth. She could even bite through his body of the war god. He pretended to be extremely shocked as he slashed his sword toward the woman before him. The Blood Tribe woman reacted extremely quickly, and she immediately gave up on sucking blood to evade the sword's strike. Little brother's blood is so sweet. The Blood Tribe woman licked her crimson lips in a seductive manner. Drink some more if you like it. Lin wore a smug expression. A hint of confusion appeared on the Blood Tribe woman's face. What do you mean by that? Lin wiped the blood from his neck with a smile. My blood is extremely poisonous to you Blood Tribe cultivators. You're quite powerful, so you can probably last for about a minute? The Blood Tribe woman faltered slightly upon hearing this before bursting into laughter. Ha ha! Little brother, are you joking with me? Do you think I'll believe such a clumsy lie? She tucked a few strands of golden hair behind her ear and raised her chin with a disdainful expression. The life force of us Blood Tribe cultivators is not something lowly beings like you can comprehend. No one's poison can kill me. As soon as she finished speaking, her delicate body trembled, and a strange flush appeared on her face. Chapter 529. Lin was ecstatic to see the Blood Tribe woman's reaction. How do you feel now? Do you know how powerful I am now? The blush on the Blood Tribe woman's face had yet to recede, and she looked up at Lin with rippling crimson eyes. You are very powerful. What was with that expression? Lin's lips twitched upon seeing this, and he was unable to comprehend what was happening. Was this the reaction of a Blood Tribe cultivator after being poisoned? Shouldn't her eyes roll back into her head, and she should be foaming at the mouth before fainting? What was with that amorous expression on her face? Right at this moment, the Blood Tribe woman suddenly half knelt to the ground with her brows furrowed in pain. She clutched at her chest as her body began to tremble. Lin immediately relaxed upon seeing this. This was the right reaction. This was the reaction that a person should have after being poisoned. The Blood Tribe woman opened her mouth with difficulty. Your blood. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face, and he was just about to open his mouth to mock her when an extremely seductive voice sounded again. I like this smell. It's as if it's purifying everything in me. The Blood Tribe woman raised her head, and her pale face became especially rosy and alluring from the flush. Her loose black robe revealed a large expanse of her fair chest, as well as her voluptuous breasts. Lin drew a sharp intake of breath upon seeing this, and he immediately averted his gaze. He calmed his heart and looked into the woman's scorching eyes with astonishment. Don't you feel like you're about to die? The Blood Tribe woman smiled seductively. I do, Unlin heaved an internal sigh of relief upon hearing this. Thank goodness. I feel like I'm about to die from pleasure, the Blood Tribe woman added. Unlin. The Blood Tribe woman slowly rose to her feet, and she seemed to have caught her breath. Aside from the fact that her breathing was a little ragged, her face was a little flushed, and her eyes were a little seductive, there didn't seem to be any other changes. Unlin stumbled back a few steps, and his entire body was tense as he appraised the woman before him with a guarded expression. This Blood Tribe woman still hadn't collapsed after such a long time. Could it be that his blood had really lost its effect? Unlin was a little nervous and dejected. In that case, his greatest reliance against the Blood Tribe mighty figures would be gone. Don't think that the enemy is easy to bully just because he's heavily injured. The life force of the Blood Tribe was extremely powerful, and it was not easy to kill a Return to Void stage Blood Tribe mighty figure. In order to end this battle, he might have to go all out again. It was going to be another tough battle. The Blood Tribe woman looked at Unlin with a complicated expression and shook her head. Don't be nervous, I won't hurt you. After all, you helped me purify my body. Right now, from my body to my soul, I refuse to hurt you. Unlin opened his mouth, suspecting that he had misheard. You keep saying that your blood is poisonous, but what you don't know is that your blood is the most delicious blood in the world. It's compatible with the heavenly Tao and has the ability to purify all evil in the world. The Blood Tribe woman looked at Unlin with a scorching gaze and continued, Weak Blood Tribe members may not be able to withstand this purifying power, and their life force will collapse while being purified. However, if they can endure it, it will become the source liquid that can elevate their life force to a higher level. Unlin was dumbstruck. Was that really the case? He recalled back to when the Blood Tribe was poisoned. Even though all of them were foaming at the mouth and their life force had been severed, none of their blood had turned black. The cause of death was very similar to the collapse of their life force. His blood was also effective against evil beings like the demons of hell, so this seemed to be related to purification as well. Unlin's eyes widened in shock. So, I'm not the Poison Lord, but the Medicine Lord instead? That's right, your blood is the most delicious medicine in the world. The Blood Tribe woman looked at Unlin with a pleading expression and pursed her lip. Can you let me take another sip? Just one sip. As long as you agree, I'll agree to anything you ask of me. Unlin really wanted to tell her to stay where she was and go buy a few oranges by himself. But on second thought, the vampire woman's reaction was quite thought-provoking. After all, if this woman really did desire his blood, she could use force to take it from him. As long as she could conquer him, she would be able to suck his blood to her heart's content. However, the Blood Tribe woman didn't make that choice. Instead, she lowered her head and pleaded with him. It looked like, could it be that the Blood Tribe woman was right? After sucking his blood, her body and soul refused to harm him? Unlin used a spell technique to extract a large drop of blood from the wound on his neck. Do you want to drink it? The Blood Tribe woman nodded incessantly. Yes, yes. Then use your storage ring and that blood jade coffin to exchange for it. Unlin chuckled. The Blood Tribe woman faltered slightly upon hearing this. Then, she turned to Unlin with tears in her eyes. You're such a bully. She extended a slender finger and produced a crimson storage ring before tossing it to Unlin. The blood jade coffin is over there. Go get it yourself. Unlin caught the storage ring and was dumbstruck for a long time. Did he really just use a drop of blood to exchange for the entire fortune of a Return to Void stage mighty figure? So his blood was actually so valuable? Unlin was both overwhelmed by the favor and pained by the amount of blood he had shed in the past. His emotions were extremely complex. He flicked the drop of blood that was hovering in midair toward the Blood Tribe woman. The Blood Tribe woman opened her mouth and swallowed it with a satisfied expression. Unlin, Shui Zhantian eagerly carried the blood jade coffin to Unlin's side. Without the enhancement of the spell technique, the coffin could finally be moved. Prior to carrying the coffin, Shui Zhantian was very considerate and used a spell technique to clean the excrement on the lid of the coffin. Lin stowed everything into his storage ring before looking at the blood tribe woman, who seemed to be still reveling in the aftertaste of the coffin. Seeing as there's nothing else, I'll be taking my leave. That's right, his target was the blood tribe woman's fortune. Seeing as he had already obtained the fortune, there was no point in continuing to fight, so he might as well retreat. Lin departed on his brick with Shui Zhantian in tow. The blood tribe woman gritted her teeth as she looked on at Lin's departing figure. She also rose into the air and followed behind Lin. Lin, why are you following me? Can you let me drink some more blood? The blood tribe woman stammered. You allowed me to experience a different life. If you let me drink some blood, I'll be sure to repay you in the future. Hee. Lin chuckled coldly. You want to drink my blood? Give up on this idea. No way. Oh, the blood tribe woman nodded with disappointment and fell silent. 15 minutes later, Lin turned around with a headache. What the hell do you want? The woman evaded his gaze and replied in a low voice. I'm in a hurry. What the **ck are you in a hurry? I've already turned in so many directions, and you're still following me. You call this a hurry? You're tailing me. You're tailing me. Lin yelled with veins bulging on his forehead. Tailing me? A smile appeared on the blood tribe woman's face. That's a good word. Lin's chest constricted, and he almost fainted from rage. They were discussing whether or not that was a good word. I definitely won't let you drink any more of my blood. There's no point in following me, Lin said in a feeble voice. There's a point. The blood tribe woman replied stubbornly. You'll always be injured in battle, and you'll bleed when you're injured. After you bleed, I'll be able to absorb your blood. Lin's vision darkened, and he almost fell off his black brick. **ck. She was right. What could he do? Chapter 530. Lin flew toward the white jade mountain atop his brick. Even though the white jade mountain was fraught with perils, there was a very high chance that realm essence crystals would appear there. Hence, Lin decided to go there without any hesitation. Becoming a eunuch for 10,000 years was no joke, and he couldn't afford to lose that. At this moment, he was sitting on his brick with a distressed expression as he flew forward. He wasn't distressed because of the threat of becoming a eunuch. Instead, he was distressed because of the blood tribe woman who was also sitting on his brick. Have you finally acknowledged me? Don't worry, as long as you give me your blood, I'll agree to any request you make. The blood tribe woman patted her voluptuous chest with a vibrant smile. Lin was a little surprised as he looked at the woman's chest. She was wearing a loose black robe, so Lin didn't notice just how large her chest was. Now that he took a closer look, wow, at least 36D. Were the blood tribe nourished this well? Could it be that sucking more blood could enhance breasts? Lin had seen so many blood tribe women, but none of them were flat-chested. The blood tribe woman seemed to have noticed Lin's gaze, and a blush appeared on her face as she fidgeted a little. That kind of thing is possible, but it's my first time, so I'll have to pay a little more blood. Lin almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Since when had his blood become a bargaining chip? No. More importantly, am I such a shallow person? Lin coughed lightly before speaking with a serious expression. Don't overthink things. I didn't ask you to come to the Black Brick because I approved of you. I just wanted to have a good talk with you. Having a return to void stage mighty figure tailing him was a very big threat. Who knew if the woman's ability to attack Lin would suddenly disappear? If the blood tribe woman recovered from her injuries and decided to kill him, then Lin wouldn't even have a place to cry. Lin also had another option, which was to unleash his full power and kill the woman tailing him. However, there was also a downside to doing this. Both sides would really shed all pretense of cordiality, and it would evolve into a true life-and-death battle. The consequences of this might be even more severe. He felt that the blood tribe woman's injuries had healed quite a bit, and he might not be able to defeat her. Also, even if the woman couldn't bear to hurt Lin because of the purification earlier, she would still run away. After he escaped, he slowly followed behind, and both sides shed all pretense of cordiality. Wouldn't that make the situation even worse? After hearing Lin's words, the blood tribe woman nodded. All right, speak. What do you want to talk about? Lin thought about it and said, If you want my blood, I can give you some. The vampire woman's eyes lit up upon hearing this. Good. Tell me your conditions. Establish a slave contract with me. Only then can I feel at ease letting you stay by my side, said Lin with a smile. The blood tribe woman's expression faltered, and she seemed to have fallen into an intense struggle. In the end, she lowered her head and shook her head. No. I can't do that. You're a human, and I'm a blood tribe. Lin massaged his brows and could only compromise in the end. Then I'll give you a drop of blood. Don't follow me anymore. A drop of blood wasn't much to him. He just didn't want this blood tribe woman to push her luck. He didn't have any better ideas, so he could only use a drop of blood to get the woman to piss off. The blood tribe woman gripped the corner of her black robe tightly and hesitated for a long while before nodding with difficulty. All right. I agree. Lin made a small cut on his fingertip and released a drop of blood for the woman. The blood tribe woman eagerly swallowed the drop of blood, and she narrowed her eyes as she relaxed her breathing. Lin was quite puzzled. Was his blood really that delicious? He thought about it for a while before getting himself another drop of blood and swallowing it. In the end, there was no other taste to it apart from being a little fishy. If you're done, then get out of here, Lin said impatiently. The blood tribe woman looked at Lin longingly and licked her rosy lips as if she wanted to eat more. Get out of here! Get out of here! Lin pointed at the sky behind him as he spoke in a determined voice. The blood tribe woman's eyes were filled with tears as she looked at Lin with a pitiful expression. Don't chase me away, please, you promised me. Why? Are you going back on your word? Lin chuckled coldly. I can't leave you. The blood tribe woman's eyes were red as she pursed her lips. Those who didn't know better would think that this was a scene of lovers breaking up. However, the reality was that this woman only liked to drink Lin's blood and refused to leave. Lin was exasperated. I've never seen such a shameless person. What's your name? Tell me my name and I'll leave. The blood tribe woman struggled to hold back her tears as she stared at Lin. Lin snapped, My name is Enritian. Enritian. The blood tribe woman murmured to herself, Pacify the world, as dazzling as the sun, as vast as the sky. What a good name. Lin's body swayed unsteadily. F***ck. Was that how Enritian interpreted the name? My name is Cassidy, the blood tribe woman said with a smile. We'll meet again, Enritian. Lin rolled his eyes. Who cared what this woman's name was? Cassidy? Even Di Hua Xiu couldn't compare to her shamelessness. A hint of dejection appeared on Cassidy's face at the sight of Lin's impatient expression, but she still forced a smile onto her face before waving goodbye. With great difficulty, the great Buddha finally left. Shui Zhantian pounced toward Lin excitedly as Cassidy flew into the distance. Master, you changed your name? I have to say, you have a very good eye for names. We really are the same kind of people. Lin chuckled. Who's the same kind of person as you? You're a beast, not a human. Shui Zhantian blinked his large, round eyes in confusion. Is that the point? Lin explained. I just didn't want to reveal my real name to that blood tribe woman in case she curses me with a mystic technique when she's in a bad mood. I really don't appreciate your taste in names. He pulled out the blood soul jade coffin and used his divine inspection technique to appraise it as he spoke. Blood soul jade coffin, intermediate rank immortal tool. Has the ability to prevent the death of a person on the brink of death, preserve the physical body, condense the consciousness, and prevent the consciousness from dissipating. It also has the ability to absorb the surrounding life force to repair the user's injuries. A satisfied smile appeared on Enlin's face. Just this immortal tool alone was worth it for him. No. This was a massive profit. He continued to refine Cassidy's storage ring while using his divine sense to inspect the contents within. His expression then faltered slightly before an expression of undisguised ecstasy appeared on his face. 3 words, "You've made a killing." Just as he had guessed, Cassidy had battled another mighty figure in the past. Not only that, but Cassidy had even killed that mighty figure. The evidence was the items within the storage ring, many of which originated from different regions. There were flowing light shells, divine sea rods, illusionary pearls, all types of marine products, as well as water-type spirit pills. Enlin appraised all of the items and discovered that the mighty figure was most likely an ancient monster from the West Sea. He tallied up all of the items within Cassidy's storage ring. There were a total of 162 vital stones, 15 spirit tools, 41 spirit pills, 25 spirit fruits, and a bunch of marine products, including food, tools, and all types of tool refinement materials. Even though there weren't any extra immortal tools, there were 4 immortal pills. There were 3 8th-grade immortal pills, blood Rakshasa pills, which could heal one's blood essence and injuries at an extremely fast rate. There was also a 6th-grade immortal pill, Jade Sea Water Soul pill, which could enhance the cultivator's affinity for water-type spell techniques to a small extent. Most importantly, there were 5 golden realm essence crystals in the storage ring. Enlin was almost moved to tears at the sight of the 5 golden realm essence crystals. The heavens had not let him down. There were still 95 more golden realm essence crystals to go. Aside from that, there were 12 red realm essence crystals and 31 white realm essence crystals in the storage ring. Enlin checked his storage ring to find that his net worth had already exceeded 20 million spirit stones. He was quite elated to find that he had more than 20 million spirit stones. After all, money was never a burden. He had only just tallied up his storage ring when the space before him suddenly cracked open. Enlin hurriedly came to a screeching halt atop his brick, and his heart leaped into his throat. This spatial power. Was it a return to void stage mighty figure? An enemy attack? Immediately afterward, a gorgeous woman in a loose black robe emerged from the spatial crack. She intertwined her hands on her lower abdomen, and tears shimmered in her eyes as she stared at Enlin with a pitiable expression, as if she had been greatly wronged. She took a deep breath, and as if she had made up her mind, she spoke in a trembling voice. "Enritien, I've decided to establish a slave contract with you." Enlin. Chapter 531. Enlin's mouth gaped open as he stared at the woman before him. The woman before him was none other than Cassidy, and she seemed to have made up her mind to agree to establish a slave contract with Enlin. It made sense. A return to void stage mighty figure would be willing to become the slave of a soul formation stage cultivator. No one would dare to believe this. Furthermore, the two of them were enemies, so this was even more incredible. If a novelist from the Kingdom of the Nine States were to write a story like this, he would definitely be denounced as a lunatic. However, this was reality, and reality was often more bizarre than stories. She couldn't live without Enlin. No, to put it more accurately, she couldn't live without Enlin's blood. She was addicted. Not only was her body dependent on Enlin, but even her soul was also dependent on him. "You are my only source of light, I can't live without you." Cassidy stared at Enlin with a heartfelt expression. "How did you find my location?" Enlin was struck by a headache. A faint blush appeared on Cassidy's face. "I can't forget your aura. The blood tribe is very adept at tracking auras, so it wasn't difficult for me to find your location." Enlin's lips twitched upon hearing this. This sticky woman really couldn't be underestimated, however, seeing as she was willing to sign a slave contract. None of that would be an issue. "Have you really made up your mind?" Lin asked. Yes. Cassidy nodded with a solemn expression. Lin made a hand seal, and a shimmering golden drop of blood essence flew out from between his fingers. Cassidy immediately flew toward the drop of blood essence with an excited expression before swallowing it in one gulp. After swallowing the blood essence, her face began to flush. Her delicate body went limp and she let out a soft moan. It was obvious that she enjoyed it very much. Ah! This taste is even more delicious than normal blood. Lin was about to explode upon seeing this, and he let loose a torrent of abuse. What the f***ck? You swallowed my drop of blood essence. Is this how slave contracts are supposed to be established? Are you trying to swallow my drop of blood essence? In order to establish the slave contract, Cassidy had to fuse her blood essence into her glabella. However, she did not say anything and directly swallowed the blood essence. Lin felt that he had been tricked. That's right. He must have been tricked. Cassidy returned to her senses and looked at Lin with an aggrieved expression. I'm sorry, I really couldn't help it. I promise that this won't happen again. If I believed you, I would be an idiot. Lin sneered. Cassidy closed her eyes and said, How about this? Tie me up so I can't move, and you can drip your blood essence onto my glabella. Lin thought about it. This was indeed a good idea. He rummaged through his storage ring and really did find a rope. This was an intermediate rank spirit tool, the Blue Sea Dragon rope. It was crafted from the tendons of a young West Sea dragon and possessed extremely powerful binding properties. Lin used the blue rope to tie Cassidy up. Her slender waist, nimble hands, voluptuous breasts, and long, sexy legs. Oi! Is there a need to tie me up so tightly? Cassidy couldn't help but ask. Lin blushed as he stopped what he was doing. It had to be said that Cassidy's figure was superb. She was a rare seductive beauty, and Lin was instantly hooked up to her. Cassidy's figure appeared even sexier after being tied up by the Blue Sea Dragon rope, and Lin couldn't help but steal a few more glances at her. After a short while, he stopped looking and began the slave contract ceremony, drawing out another golden drop of blood essence. Blood essence was no ordinary blood. Instead, it was blood that was imbued with Lin's spiritual essence and Tao intent. If he were to use it too many times in a row, his body would be completely depleted, so he had to succeed this time. Cassidy's body trembled slightly at the sight of the drop of blood essence, and her eyes were filled with intense yearning. Having tasted the marrow, she really wanted to eat this drop of blood essence. She opened her mouth and stuck out her pink tongue, upon which she pounced toward the drop of blood essence like a dumpling. Cassidy had lost her rationality again. Holy f***ck. Lin was given a massive fright, and he immediately unleashed a spell technique to draw back the drop of blood essence. Cassidy was still pouncing toward him, and Lin slapped her onto the brick before mounting her and pinning her down beneath his body. Calm down. Let go of me. Let go of me. I want to devour your blood essence. Cassidy struggled on the brick. Lin had one hand on Cassidy's shoulder to stabilize her body, while his other hand covered her mouth to prevent her from devouring the drop of blood essence. Wah! Cassidy struggled with all her might as tears of indignation welled up in her crimson eyes. Lin's face convulsed upon seeing this. F***ck. Why does it look like I'm up to no good? The drop of blood essence began to fly toward Cassidy's glabella before landing on her glabella without any mishaps. Lin heaved a sigh of relief before looking at her glabella with an expectant expression, only to discover that the golden drop of blood showed no signs of being devoured. He looked at Cassidy with a speechless expression, and there was a hint of indifference in his eyes. A slave contract could only be established with the consent of both parties. Right now, Cassidy was only focused on devouring the blood essence, and not on establishing a connection with it. I'll give you 3 seconds. If you can't establish a contract within 3 seconds, then piss off, Lin said in a cold voice. Cassidy's expression faltered upon hearing this before a hint of clarity returned to her scorching eyes. 3, 2, 1. The golden drop of blood began to seep into Cassidy's glabella as Enlin's voice trailed off. An indistinct connection was established between Enlin and Cassidy, thereby establishing a slave contract. Enlin heaved a sigh of relief before rising to his feet and releasing the blue sea dragon rope, so that Cassidy could move freely again. A hint of disappointment appeared on Cassidy's face, as if she had missed out on something very beautiful. By the way, your name Cassidy is too hard to pronounce. I'll call you Little Ku from now on. Enlin sat down on his black brick as he spoke. Little Ku? Cassidy faltered slightly upon hearing this. She was a revered Return to Void stage mighty figure and the sect leader of the Heavenly Blood sect, but she was being referred to as Little Ku by a soul formation stage cultivator? However, she suddenly recalled that the man before her was already her master, so there was nothing wrong with referring to him as such. Thus, she heaved an indiscernible sigh before nodding. All right, Master Enritian. Don't call me Enritian, my name is Enlin. Enlin waved his hand. Cassidy raised her head and looked up at Enlin with confusion in her eyes. I was lying to you. My real name is Enlin, Enlin explained. Cassidy's negative emotions surged. I'm so angry, but I still have to maintain a smile on my face. He's already my master after all. Then, master, when can I suck your blood? Cassidy stared at Enlin with a scorching light in her eyes. Enlin rolled his eyes. This slave was toxic. All she wanted to do was suck his blood. Maybe when I'm in a good mood, Enlin replied perfunctorily. Cassidy made her way over and latched onto Enlin's arm as her voluptuous chest rubbed against his arm. She inched closer to Enlin's ear and spoke in a seductive voice. Then, how can I make you happy? Can I please you? Enlin shuddered upon hearing this, and he immediately shrugged off Cassidy's hand. Get away from me! Oh! Cassidy took a couple of steps back, but her seductive red eyes stared intently at Enlin. F***ck, this B** starred is even more seductive than Xiao Hong. If she continued to tease him like this, Enlin felt like he was about to lose his virginity. Ahem. I'll reward you with blood whenever you perform meritorious deeds in battle. Enlin began to list out all kinds of meritorious deeds as he spoke. For example, obtaining an immortal tool would reward him with 3 milliliters of blood. Obtaining 1,000,000 spirit stones would reward him with 1 milliliter of blood. Obtaining a golden realm essence crystal would reward him with 1 milliliter of blood. Killing a Return to Void stage mighty figure would reward him with 5 milliliters of blood. Cassidy sat obediently on her black brick as she listened to Enlin's conditions with a scorching light in her eyes. Chapter 532. Enlin continued to fly toward the white jade mountain atop his black brick. Now that he had the help of a Return to Void stage mighty figure, he was a lot safer. Cassidy was at the pinnacle of the Return to Void initial stage, and was about to progress to the Return to Void intermediate stage. With her help, even if he couldn't defeat other Return to Void stage mighty figures, he would still have a good chance of escaping. Enlin lent the Blood Soul Jade coffin to Cassidy to continue her recuperation. Cassidy stared at the coffin with complex emotions in her heart. If it weren't for the fact that she had been overly confident and decided to recuperate on the grasslands, she wouldn't have encountered Enlin, and she wouldn't have become his servant. No. It wasn't for no reason. It was for the mighty holy blood. For the blood that could elevate one's life force to a higher level. She lay in the coffin and unleashed a spell technique to absorb the vitality within a radius of several dozen kilometers. Enlin flew above the purple grasslands atop his black brick, and everything in his wake was completely barren, as if he were a demon king. After flying for close to 2 hours, the Blood Soul Jade coffin opened again, and Cassidy sat up before stretching lazily to show off her impressive figure. The starlight shone down on her face, making her appear particularly enchanting. Phew, I've almost recovered, Cassidy said. If you've recovered, then hurry up and come out of the coffin and stop your spell technique, Unlin snapped. Why are you in such a hurry? Cassidy pursed her lip. I've been a moving target for 2 hours, and I'm not as careless as you. Unlin felt like it was best not to use this type of coffin, as it would attract too many enemies if it emitted such a bright red light. After Cassidy emerged from the coffin, Unlin stowed the Blood Soul Jade coffin away. Our main mission now is to collect Golden Realm Essence Crystals. We have to do everything we can to obtain Golden Realm Essence Crystals. Unlin spoke with a solemn expression. Oh. Cassidy nodded before turning to Unlin with a peculiar expression. I've always wanted to ask, who gave you the courage to come to the Void Star section as a mere soul formation stage cultivator? Don't blame me for being blunt. Your strength is indeed at the peak of the soul formation stage, but who can you defeat here? Could it be that he came here just because there are more Golden Realm Essence Crystals in the Void Star section? Unlin almost cried when he heard that. Do you think I wanted to come here? After saying that, he told Cassidy about his experience. Cassidy was surprised to hear this. I didn't think you would encounter the legendary giant Starry Mountain. It does have the ability to pass through the space between the two domains. You're really unlucky. You can't say that I'm unlucky. Fortune and misfortune come hand in hand. At the very least, I've gained quite a lot of spoils of war, and I've even taken in a return to Void stage servant. Unlin sighed with emotion. Cassidy! So should I keep smiling now? Or should I praise you instead? Unlin! I'm sorry, that was just a slip of the tongue. Unlin was quite embarrassed to have accidentally stabbed Cassidy in the heart. By the way, do you know how far away the Purple Grass Plains is from the White Jade Mountain? I've been walking for so long, but I still can't see the end of it, Unlin suddenly asked. Cassidy paused momentarily before replying. The Purple Grass Plains are quite big. At your current speed, it'll take you about 6 hours to get there. That's so far. Unlin was astonished. You want to go to the White Jade Mountain? Why didn't you tell me? I could have taken you there in less than an hour using spatial skipping, Cassidy said with a perplexed expression. Unlin. Cassidy's question was so sharp that Unlin had no response to it. Because I'm stupid. Unlin chose to answer in the end. Thus, Cassidy tore open a spatial gate and stepped into it with Unlin in one hand and Shuezhantian in the other. The White Jade Mountain was a stretch of pristine white mountain ranges with a layer of white jade covering the surface of the mountain ranges. They glowed faintly under the light of the stars in the sky, giving the tranquil environment a sense of holiness. A black spatial rift split open in the air, and a long-legged woman emerged with Shuezhantian, who was frothing at the mouth, and Unlin, who was completely dizzy. Oi, are you guys okay? It's only been an hour and you're already so dizzy? Cassidy asked with a resigned expression. Unlin rubbed his brows and grumbled. You're the one who's not very good at spatial skipping, and you're blaming me for this? That's right. A real man should advance bravely, not up and down, left and right, braking suddenly and charging forward. You can't even stay still for a second. Shuezhantian lay on Unlin's head with a dispirited expression. Cassidy rolled her eyes. Do you think traveling through space is the same as teleporting through a spatial spell formation? There are many things that you have to be aware of. She couldn't be bothered to explain. Instead, she swept her divine sense outward in a frenzy. Her top priority now was to find the Golden Realm Essence Crystals to exchange for that delicious blood. All of a sudden, her expression faltered, and she turned toward a certain direction as a seductive smile appeared on her face. Unlin immediately knew that something was up, and he asked in an urgent voice, "What did you discover?" Cassidy pointed in a certain direction with a mysterious smile on her face. I discovered the aura of my kind in that direction. It's the aura of the blood tribe. Unlin immediately understood upon hearing this. He nodded. Let's go have a look. He put on his illusionary star robe and followed behind Cassidy with Shuezhantian in his arms. Cassidy also unleashed a mystic technique to conceal her body and aura as they flew forward. As they drew closer and closer, Unlin was greeted by the sight of an extremely strange terrain. Among a series of mountains that were covered in white jade, there was one that was slightly smaller at the base and slightly larger at the top. The slope of the mountain wasn't very steep, and it looked like a thick pillar from afar. There seemed to be a faint golden glow emanating from this pillar, and Unlin's attention was immediately drawn to it. It was quite clear that this was an abnormal region. 5 humanoid jade statues over 100 feet tall stood at the top of the pillar in a circular formation. There was no life aura emanating from them, but they gave off an extremely dangerous feeling. Unlin looked around the pillar to discover 3 figures standing in a triangular formation. He looked at these 3 beings to discover that one of them was a handsome man with short golden hair and a slightly thin figure. This man had crimson pupils, and he was undoubtedly a Return to Void stage blood tribe mighty figure. The other being was an ordinary-looking man with dragon horns on his head and a white fan in his hand. This was most likely a Return to Void stage mighty figure from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, and he was an ally of Unlin's after all. The final being was a shark that was around 30 feet in size and enshrouded within a spherical ball of water. This shark had a pair of black wings on its back, and its ventral fins had evolved into a pair of black claws. One of its claws held a blue bead, while the other had a black liquid revolving around it. It was most likely a member of the West Sea Ancient Monsters. Unlin could see that all 3 of them belonged to different powers, and all of them seemed to be hostile toward the other 2 powers. As such, the triangle relationship between the 3 mighty figures was quite stable, and there was no way that they would end up fighting each other. A smug smile suddenly appeared on Unlin's face. But now, this kind of relationship had to change, because yours truly was here. Chapter 533. There were 3 Return to Void stage mighty figures around the cylindrical mountain, so they were naturally unable to escape detection. Unlin and Cassidy had no intention of concealing themselves, and they flew directly toward the 3 mighty figures. Sect Leader Cassidy, what a coincidence! I didn't think I would encounter you here. The golden-haired male faltered slightly upon seeing Cassidy before an expression of ecstasy appeared on his face. He had won this round. That's right, I'm here. Merlin, what's the situation like now? Cassidy asked with a smile. The other 2 Return to Void stage mighty figures' expressions both shifted upon hearing this. Now that 2 blood tribe mighty figures had appeared, the balance of power had shifted, and this placed a lot of pressure on them. The ancient monsters of the West Sea and the dragon tribe of the East Sea had always been enemies. Some people might ask why 2 powers that spanned across half of the entire continent would become enemies, but that would have to be explained from the time when Pangu split heaven and earth. In any case, there was no way that the dragon tribe male and the shark monster were working together. As such, the 2 blood tribe mighty figures present had become a huge threat to them. There's a human and a snow soul beast? And they're both at the soul formation stage? How strange. The dragon tribe male was a little surprised, but he didn't do anything. In his eyes, that human was most likely the blood tribe mighty figure's captive. His relationship with humans wasn't good enough for him to provoke the blood tribe just for a human he didn't know. As for the shark monster, it didn't even bother to look at the human as a soul formation stage cultivator posed no threat to it. All it had to do was maintain its vigilance toward the 2 blood tribe mighty figures nearby. This mountain is the node of one of the main veins of the White Jade Mountain, and a phenomenon has occurred there. Perhaps some rare treasures or realm essence crystals will appear soon, which is why I'm waiting here. Merlin's elated expression faded as he explained with a gentle expression. I sure came at a good time. You don't mind if I take a share, do you? Cassidy asked with a smile. Of course not. Merlin was very straightforward. He then turned to Unlin with a meaningful smile. Who would have thought that sect leader Cassidy would be interested in adopting a pretty boy? A faint smile appeared on Cassidy's face as she replied, "It's just a mobile blood bank. I can take a sip of it whenever I'm bored." And Lynn's face convulsed slightly upon hearing this. What a good phrase to use as a mobile blood bank. Cassidy was most likely also thinking about this. Merlin nodded. He didn't think much of the human male. After all, he had seen blood tribe cultivators bring along food and enjoy it whenever they wanted. He then turned his attention to the other two return to void stage mighty figures. "There are two troublemakers in our way, how about we get rid of them?" Merlin suggested with a smile. "Can you win?" Cassidy asked curiously. "They're not of the same mind, so there's no way they'll join forces without any ill will. We have a very good chance." Merlin didn't hide his thoughts. When the Dragon Clan man and the Shark Demon heard this, their expressions changed and they exchanged a solemn glance. "Gu Luo, do you plan to fight or flee?" The Dragon Race man turned to ask the Shark Ancient Fae. This point had to be made clear. Otherwise, if the Shark Ancient Demon turned and ran the moment the battle began, then what was the point of fighting? "Ao Mingyu, the situation is very clear now. We only have two choices. Since you have battle intent, then I won't flee either. Let's set aside our feud and defeat the Blood Tribe first," Gu Luo said as battle intent surged from his body. "Alright." The Dragon Clan man waved his white fan through the air. Dark clouds instantly surged in the sky within a radius of 5 kilometers, and lightning began to crackle. Gu Luo stepped forward, and massive waves suddenly surged through the ground as he pounced toward the two Blood Tribe cultivators. 100,000 soul generals, heed my command. Ancient Blood Demon Formation. A flag suddenly appeared in Merlin's hand, from which countless souls surged forth to form an extremely vast spell formation, which then materialized into the projection of a blood demon over 10,000 feet tall. The blood demon's entire body was crimson, and it wielded a crimson saber, which it sliced through the oncoming wave with a single slash. Thus the battle commenced. Lin flew through the air atop his brick, and became a spectator as he observed the earth-shattering battle. Cassidy charged toward the Dragon Clan man by the name of Ao Mingyu, while Merlin engaged in battle with the Shark Demon. Lin was able to gauge the power levels of his three opponents through this battle. Ao Mingyu was an average return to void initial stage mighty figure, and he was being slightly outclassed by Cassidy. The wind, rain, and lightning he summoned were extremely fearsome, but they were all evaded or blocked by Cassidy's ghostly movement techniques, so he was completely unable to harm Cassidy. In contrast, Cassidy's crimson flying swords were extremely fearsome, and they were even more lethal than the Dragon Clan man. Streaks of crimson light tore through the lightning, and Ao Mingyu was unable to evade in time as a large gash was inflicted on his arm by the crimson sword. Lin looked at Cassidy, and he knew that even if he were to use his origin energy of the netherworld and borrow Kirin's power, he still wouldn't be able to block her crimson flying swords. On the other side of the battlefield, Gu Luo and Merlin were evenly matched. Both of them were at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage like Cassidy, so they were evenly matched. However, it was exactly because of this that Ao Mingyu was beginning to back down. F***ck. Gu Luo was already evenly matched. What was he going to do? If things continued like this, he was going to be killed by Cassidy. A crimson sword projection parted heaven and earth before slashing down upon Ao Mingyu with a sinister killing intent. The hair on Ao Mingyu's body stood on end upon seeing this sword projection, and he let loose an enraged roar as he instantly transformed into a massive white dragon several thousand feet in length, which swept toward the sword projection with his tail. Boom! Ao Mingyu was knocked flying by the terrifying power of the sword projection, and he fled into the distance without even looking back. Cassidy gave up on pursuing him. Even if she wanted to, it would be very difficult for her to catch up to him. After all, in a battle between Return to Void stage mighty figures, As long as the disparity in power wasn't too great, there was a very good chance that one would be able to escape. Gu Luo let loose an enraged curse upon seeing Ao Mingyu flee before also fleeing into the distance. Thus, it didn't take long for this terrifying battle to draw to a conclusion, and the Blood Tribe secured a resounding victory. Ha ha! Sect Leader Cassidy, it's all thanks to your help that we were able to defeat our enemies. Merlin was extremely elated at the sight of Ao Mingyu and Gu Luo's departing figures, and he joined his hands in a salute toward Cassidy with a smile on his face. You're far too kind. Cassidy made her way toward Merlin with a dainty smile on her face, and her voluptuous chest jiggled as she swayed her slender waist from side to side. Even Merlin was momentarily dazed upon seeing this, and Cassidy had already made her way over to his side. It was also in that instant that the crimson longsword tore through space and punctured Merlin's heart at close range. The terrifying force behind the sword projection tore through the earth for several kilometers, and a series of inky black spatial rifts manifested just how terrifying that attack was. Everything had happened far too quickly and too abruptly. Merlin was completely caught off guard, and his eyes widened with incredulity as he stared at the hole in his chest. Boom! His body suddenly exploded into a cloud of blood mist before materializing several hundred meters away. Merlin's punctured chest had already healed, but his face was extremely pale, clearly indicating that he had been severely wounded. Cassidy stepped forward, and the space within a radius of 1.5 kilometers was instantly sealed, thereby cutting off Merlin's escape route. Why? We're from the same power. We don't have any vendettas, do we? Merlin took a deep breath before turning to Cassidy with confusion etched on his face. Cassidy stood proudly before pointing her crimson sword at Merlin, and she raised her chin in a righteous manner. Why? To cleanse this world of all sin, of course. Merlin. Chapter 534. Purify all evil in this world? Merlin was dumbstruck. Was that something a member of the Blood Tribe should say? Cassidy was a fake, wasn't she? Even if you don't want to answer my question, don't try to brush me off with something like that. Merlin felt like he was being treated like a stupid C***nt, and his voice had even raised a few octaves. However, Cassidy's expression remained unchanged, and she continued to point her sword at Merlin, as if she wasn't joking or trying to brush him off. Right at this moment, a streak of white light flew through the air toward Cassidy. Cassidy caught the streak of white light to discover that it was a white longsword that had been smeared with blood. She faltered slightly before turning to look into the distance. This sword has my blood on it. Let's show Merlin the power of my blood. Unlin smiled. Cassidy nodded with excitement upon hearing this. Only then did Merlin turn to look at the man in the distance, the man that he had completely ignored this entire time. How could he not have realized something at a time like this? There was no way that the human man in the distance was Cassidy's food. The two of them definitely had a special relationship. It was even possible that Cassidy had attacked him because of that man. Cassidy seemed to have gained a lot more confidence as she held her longsword in front of her with a proud expression. Merlin, this is a sword that's been smeared with lethal poison in your eyes. She licked the blood on the blade of the sword as she spoke, upon which an indescribable blush appeared on her face. Her breathing accelerated, and her body rose and fell with pleasure. Merlin stumbled back a couple of steps in fear, thinking that Cassidy was going to unleash some kind of mystic technique. Cassidy continued, "It really is a weapon that has been smeared with lethal poison. Continue licking." Another seductive moan sounded. Merlin's eyes widened. "It's poison, but it's also medicine. It will purify your life force and allow you to experience the true meaning of life." Cassidy's eyes rippled as she continued to lick. Right at this moment, a black figure flew through the air before striking Cassidy's head with a knife hand. F***ck off. My blood has almost been sucked dry by you. Unlin flared up with rage. Cassidy pouted. "I can't help it," the corner of Unlin's mouth twitched. "You can't help it and you're saying you're in the right? If you continue to act like this, believe it or not, I will immediately cancel the blood bounty we agreed on before." He felt that giving Cassidy a blood-stained weapon was a mistake, a huge mistake. This woman couldn't even walk after seeing blood, so how could she help you kill the enemy? Merlin looked at the two of them with a perplexed expression, but he didn't just stand there and do nothing. Instead, he immediately began to break free from the spatial seal. Cassidy finally came to her senses after being scolded, and she charged toward Merlin with her long sword in hand. Merlin pulled out his banner again to summon his battle soul to stop Cassidy's attack. The two of them were evenly matched, and now that Merlin had been severely wounded, blood began to flow from his wounds again. Merlin clasped a hand over his wounded waist as he stumbled back in retreat. However, Cassidy didn't follow up with another attack. Instead, she held her sword in front of her as a sinister smile appeared on her face. "Your evil body will be purified by my holy blood." She was just about to lick the blood off her longsword as she spoke. However, her brows furrowed slightly as if she were a little disdainful at the sight of Merlin's blood staining her longsword. That was strange. She clearly loved to suck blood in the past, so why was she so disgusted with it now? No. Cassidy came to a sudden realization. This was all because she had seen the world and was no match for water. After tasting Enlin's peerlessly delicious blood, how could she possibly be interested in other inferior blood? Merlin felt like Cassidy had to have gone insane. Her words were always so incomprehensible and incomprehensible. Merlin turned to look up at the human male in the sky, and a terrifying thought suddenly occurred to him. Could it be that Cassidy was being controlled by that man? Or perhaps she had been bewitched. It was already incredible that a soul formation stage male would appear here. Furthermore, his calm expression made it seem as if he had someone backing him up. This was not the expression that a weakling would wear in the face of a powerful being. Just as these thoughts were racing through Merlin's mind, the blood in his body was suddenly invaded by some kind of power. Ah! His legs gave out from under him, and he half knelt to the ground as he clutched his chest with an agonized expression. That power seemed to be expelling something and destroying something. Immediately afterward, he felt as if the darkness had been purged and the light of day had descended upon him, making him moan involuntarily, "My body has changed, no. I should say, this is my body." Merlin panted heavily as he spoke in a trembling voice. He understood. He understood what Cassidy meant by her words. He couldn't refuse. He couldn't refuse this delicious blood that could elevate his life force to a higher level. Merlin stood up and spread open his arms like the most devout of a saint. "Cassidy, come. Use that poisonous weapon of yours to cut me to your heart's content." A hesitant expression appeared on Cassidy's face. She was still hesitating whether she should lick Master's blood or not. She really didn't want to do that, but she was also being stained with that filthy Merlin's blood. On the black brick, Shui Zhantian slapped his own head with a resigned expression. Another crazy one. At this moment, Enlin leaped down from the black brick in a graceful manner. It was time for him to make his entrance. An indescribable feeling welled up in Merlin's heart at the sight of Enlin. It was as if the man standing before him was a god who had bestowed upon him a new life, a god whom he couldn't harm and only wanted to protect. Merlin was a little dumbstruck. Could it be that he had already fallen in love? No. That's definitely not it. That's right. That blood belonged to this human male. Merlin instantly figured everything out, and everything became clear to him. Enlin looked at Merlin with a meaningful expression. "Establish a slave contract with me, and you will receive my blood in exchange for a brand new life." Merlin's body shuddered as he looked at Cassidy with a hesitant expression. "Could it be that that's right. I'm willing to follow Master for the sake of a brand new realm of life," Cassidy replied with a calm expression. The first person to make a change often required more courage. When someone had already made a choice, the pressure on the people following them would often be a lot less intense. After all, even the mighty sect leader of the Heavenly Blood sect was willing to become Unlin's slave, so it wasn't as if Merlin would be willing to become a slave as well. Merlin hesitated momentarily before nodding in agreement. He was then tied up by the blue sea dragon rope. Merlin stared at Unlin with a dumbstruck expression. "I'm going to sign a slave contract. Why are you tying me up?" All of a sudden, a chill ran down his spine. Could it be that this human male had a special fetish? Unlin pursed his lips upon seeing Merlin's reaction. "I'm afraid that you'll swallow my blood essence like a certain someone did." Cassidy stuck out her tongue with an awkward smile on her face. However, Unlin turned to look at her before pointing up into the sky. Cassidy was perplexed. "What is it?" "Piss off. I'm afraid that you'll pounce on me again and swallow my blood essence." "I don't have any more rope," Unlin warned with a serious expression. Cassidy. After the Blood Tribe woman left, Unlin straddled Merlin's body and held him down, 800 words omitted here. In the end, Unlin successfully established a slave contract with Merlin. The number of lackeys had increased by 1. Chapter 535. Following Merlin's surrender, Unlin now had 2 return-to-void stage servants. He felt like he could use his own blood to try and subdue a return-to-void stage Blood Tribe army. With the power of the Blood Tribe army, he would be able to collect Golden Realm Essence crystals at a faster rate. After all, the power of an individual was limited, but the power of a group was limitless. Ahem. "Oh right, Little Wheat. Do you know where your other friends are?" Unlin asked in a slow voice. Merlin's chest tightened. "Little Wheat? Why don't you call me Little Rice?" He shook his head. "I've been in the Void Star section for so long, but I haven't encountered any other Blood Tribe cultivators." Unlin was quite disappointed to hear this. Cassidy had mentioned that there were 4 return-to-void stage Blood Tribe mighty figures in the Void Star section, which meant that as long as those mighty figures were still alive, he could recruit 2 more into his group. "Master, I worked hard to help you subdue Merlin. Are you going to?" Cassidy spoke in a gentle voice as she stared at Unlin with her watery eyes. Unlin only remembered this upon hearing this, and he immediately replied, "I, Unlin, am a man of my word. You helped me subdue Merlin, which is equivalent to killing a return-to-void stage mighty figure. You will be rewarded with 5 milliliters of blood." He slit his finger as he spoke, and a large drop of blood flew toward Cassidy. Cassidy pounced toward the drop of blood with excitement on her face before swallowing it whole. A faint blush appeared on her cheeks, and she closed her eyes with bliss, as if she was digesting the drop of blood. Merlin's eyes widened at the sight of the large drop of blood, and he swallowed uncontrollably. "Master, I want it too." A faint smile appeared on Unlin's face. "Hand over your storage ring, and I can reward you with 3 milliliters of blood." "Oh right, that flag is your weapon, so I can let you keep it for now." A conflicted expression appeared on Merlin's face. He looked at Cassidy, who was trembling with happiness, and he finally made up his mind. "All right, deal." Thus, Unlin exchanged another large drop of blood for a Blood Tribe storage ring. He couldn't wait to refine the storage ring and inspect the items inside. 1,200,000 vital stones, 13 spirit tools, over 20 spirit pills, over 10 spirit fruits, 2 golden realm essence crystals, 1 red realm essence crystal, 10 blue realm essence crystals, and 20 white realm essence crystals. 3 milliliters of fresh blood for these items, what a steal! Unlin glanced at his storage ring before clearing his throat and explaining the rest of the blood bounty rules to Merlin. Obtain an immortal tool and you'll be rewarded with 3 milliliters of blood. 1 million spirit stones and 1 milliliter of blood. Obtained 1 golden realm essence crystal, rewarded with 1 milliliter of blood. Merlin's body swayed slightly upon hearing this. Fuck, what a huge loss. If he had known this would happen, he would have sold the items in the storage ring one by one. That way, he would have definitely obtained more blood. He then came to his senses and looked at Enlin with a hint of resentment on his face. Wasn't Enlin's intention in only mentioning the rules now, rumble? Suddenly, the chi of heaven and earth surged wildly. Dark clouds obscured the stars in the sky, and golden lightning snakes slithered through the dark clouds as a fearsome might converged overhead. Enlin was given a massive fright, and he looked around, thinking that some mighty figure had intervened. However, he then turned toward Cassidy, who was meditating on the ground, and drew a sharp intake of breath. Cassidy is about to make a breakthrough. We have to get back. Merlin dragged Enlin and Shuizhantian in retreat as he spoke. Vital energy surged for over 50 kilometers before forming a massive cyclone that converged within Cassidy's body. Immediately afterward, bolts of golden void lightning struck Cassidy's body. Dazzling lightning exploded like a golden sun in the sky, bathing heaven and earth in a golden hue. The lightning tribulation didn't last for very long, and the lightning clouds soon dissipated. Cassidy stood up, and her aura was vast and powerful. After opening her eyes, a hint of transcendent aura appeared on her face. An astonished expression appeared on Merlin's face. How could this be? Isn't she progressing from the initial stage to the intermediate stage? Why isn't she undergoing a blood demon tribulation? Blood demon tribulation? Enlin blinked in confusion. We blood tribe cultivators often feed on the blood essence of other living beings, and the blood essence that flows into our bodies will affect our Tao foundation. The resentment, hatred, and all kinds of negative energy contained within them are our blood demons. Hence, every time we progress to the return to void stage, we have to transcend a blood demon tribulation. Merlin's voice trailed off as he turned to Enlin, and his eyes lit up as he took a deep breath. I understand now. It's all because of Master, because of the purification of your blood. Enlin, Merlin was ecstatic. The blood tribe's blood demon tribulation was far more perilous than the lightning tribulation, and there were often blood tribe mighty figures who perished as a result. Now that his blood had been purified, just the fact that he was spared from the blood demon tribulation was worth it. Cassidy had clearly realized this as well, and she made her way over to Enlin before wrapping her arms around Enlin's arm in a seductive manner. Thank you, Master. It's all thanks to your blood that I was able to break through my bottleneck and successfully progress to the void stage. Don't seduce me if you're thanking me. Enlin struggled free from Cassidy's arm with a disgruntled expression. You're so insensitive. Cassidy pouted as she put on a pitiful expression. If other men were to see Cassidy's seductive expression, they would probably be unable to look away. In fact, they might even be tempted to pull her into their arms. Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh as he held Shuizhantian tightly in his arms. Not only is she after my blood, but she's also after me? This woman is far too dangerous, however. The fact that Cassidy had progressed to the return to void intermediate stage meant that Enlin's team had become even more powerful. In this regard, he was quite pleased. Not long after that, the cylindrical mountain began to glow with a brilliant golden light, and the ground began to tremor and quake. The changes have finally begun. Master, please get away from this mountain. I have a bad feeling about this. Cassidy's expression became extremely grave as her eyes fell upon the 5 humanoid jade statues over 100 feet tall at the top of the cylindrical mountain. Enlin retreated with Shuizhantian in tow as he stared intently at the 5 humanoid jade statues. A golden light flickered from the location of the hearts of the humanoid jade statues, as if they were beating hearts, and an extremely terrifying might erupted from their hearts. Over 50 kilometers away, an ordinary-looking dragon tribe male waved a white fan as he stared at the golden light in the distance with narrowed eyes. Has it finally begun? In another direction, a shark monster wielding a white bead wore a cruel smile on its face. Do you really think I'm going to leave just like that? I'm going to make you pay. Chapter 536. The cylindrical mountain began to crumble, and a pillar of golden light shot into the sky. The golden light was imbued with an extremely fearsome power that could reduce the Jade Mountain to dust. The 5 jade humanoid beasts were bathed in the golden light, and not only were they not destroyed, they became even more powerful. Their eyes began to glow with a dazzling light, and their joints began to vibrate as if they were doing a mechanical warm-up. The pillar of golden light slowly dissipated, and dazzling realm essence crystals appeared in the rubble of the mountain. Lin's eyes widened, and he drew a sharp intake of breath as his voice trembled slightly. 21. There are 21 golden realm essence crystals. There were 21 realm essence crystals clustered together in the center of the rubble, but all 21 of them were golden in color. These were realm essence crystals of the highest grade. Not only was Lin astonished, but even Cassidy and Merlin were a little dazed, as if they had been blinded by the dazzling golden light. "My God! We're going to be rich," Merlin murmured. 21 milliliters of holy blood. Cassidy licked her crimson lips with a scorching light in her eyes. Lin was already itching for action. "Hurry up and go." Merlin pulled out his banner. "Don't get excited. The bigger the treasure, the more dangerous it is. Those 5 jade humanoid beasts are definitely not to be trifled with. Let me assess their strength first." He unleashed 100,000 battle souls toward the realm essence crystals as he spoke. 21 milliliters of holy blood is mine." "Merlin, you're shameless." Cassidy flared up with rage when she discovered that the battle souls were flying toward the realm essence crystals on the ground instead of toward the crystalline humanoid beasts in the sky. However, right at this moment a golden light fell from the sky. Boom! A white jade humanoid crashed violently into the ground, and a golden shockwave erupted forth for over a kilometer, pulverizing the ground and sending the 100,000 battle souls flying. So powerful! Lin could sense the vast aura emanating from the jade humanoid beast's body. They were clearly comparable to Return to Void stage mighty figures. Powerful or not, this wheat is just too weak. Cassidy was already in a fit of rage, and she couldn't help but sneer coldly at the sight of Merlin's battle souls being sent flying before charging toward the jade humanoid beasts. "Who gives you the right to call me little wheat?" Merlin was immediately enraged upon hearing this. He began to activate the banner with all his might. Black light flashed within the banner, and 100,000 battle souls started to form a battle formation, condensing into a 10,000-foot-tall blood demon phantom. However, as soon as the blood demon's projection was formed, the 2 humanoid jade beasts turned into golden beams of light and charged toward the gigantic blood demon. Boom! Boom! The terrifying impact caused the huge blood devil to topple over and fall to the ground. As expected of a Return to Void intermediate stage powerful being, Cassidy's crimson sword became more and more powerful, and the humanoid jade beast was completely suppressed. Just as she was closing in on the golden realm essence crystals, the other 2 humanoid jade beasts pounced toward her, and the tables were instantly turned. Cassidy was being pummeled by the 3 humanoid jade beasts, and Merlin was also being pummeled into the ground by 2 humanoid jade beasts. Neither of them had a chance of winning. But don't forget, there's still Lin. Lin spread open his wings and activated the wind sword in his hand as he abruptly pounced toward the golden realm essence crystals in the distance. A sonic boom cloud expanded outward, leaving a white trail in its wake as it tore through the air. "Hold them off for me." Lin transmitted his voice to Cassidy and Merlin. Cassidy let loose a delicate cry, and countless crimson swords formed a sword net trapping formation to ensnare the 3 humanoid jade beasts. The giant blood demon under Merlin's control also let loose an almighty roar, and its 2 huge hands suddenly exploded to form a massive crimson net, which ensnared the 2 humanoid jade beasts. It wasn't trying to completely trap them, but it was just trying to stall them for a while. Lin drew closer and closer to the golden realm essence crystals, and just when he thought that he was going to succeed, an extreme sense of peril suddenly engulfed his entire body. He unleashed his origin energy of the netherworld without any hesitation, and his aura soared explosively as he slashed his sword sideways. Boom! A gargantuan ball of water exuding an aura of annihilation collided with Lin's sword strike, and heaven and earth instantly fell silent. Then, black and blue energy exploded violently, creating a shock wave that extended for several kilometers. PFFF. Lin was swept up by the shock wave, and he threw up a large mouthful of blood as his body plummeted to the ground like a cannonball. A soul formation stage cultivator was able to withstand my attack? In the distance, an ancient shark monster flew toward Lin with a hint of surprise in its eyes. It was none other than Gu Luo. But you're only a soul formation stage cultivator after all. These realm essence crystals are mine. The ancient shark monster roared with laughter as it charged toward the golden realm essence crystals. Before the ancient shark monster's smile had even faded, an extremely thick bolt of white lightning fell from the sky and struck the ancient shark monster's head viciously. Howl! A white dragon suddenly appeared from within the faint clouds and mist. It then descended from the sky, and its target was also the 21 golden realm essence crystals. This was none other than Ao Mingyu, who had already reverted to his true form, a winged dragon. The ancient shark monster flared up with rage upon seeing this, and the black mist on its left claw transformed into a sinister shark that charged toward the white dragon at a speed that was even faster than the white dragon. Ao Mingyu, you can't defeat me, so piss off. I can consider giving you 5 of these golden realm essence crystals after I take them. The white dragon remained unmoved, and its body was enshrouded in white lightning as it charged toward the golden realm essence crystals without any hesitation. Boom! The white dragon collided with the black mist shark, and the white lightning completely pulverized the shark. However, it was also in that instant that Gu Luo had already charged toward Ao Mingyu, and the two of them engaged in battle again. 21 golden realm essence crystals was extremely tempting even to a return to void stage mighty figure. Lin stood up from a massive crater as he coughed up a mouthful of blood. An attack from a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage was simply too terrifying. Even with his embryonic body of the war god and the origin energy of the netherworld, his body was still severely wounded. However, he wasn't going to give up. These 21 golden realm essence crystals had to be his. Cassidy and Merlin had given up on trapping the humanoid jade beast. Only an idiot would do something like that if an outsider were to interfere. Thus, the humanoid jade beast sensed that the golden realm essence crystals were in danger, and it began to change targets as it pounced toward the white dragon and the shark. The earth-shattering collision of energy erupted into the heavens. If a normal person were to approach within a kilometer of this battle, they would be torn to shreds by the fearsome shockwave. Lin swallowed a pill. This was a 5th-grade immortal pill, the Scorching Sun pill, which could unleash boundless latent potential for a short period of time. Boom! His aura had already reached the soul formation pinnacle stage after being enhanced by the origin energy of the netherworld, and now that he had swallowed a Scorching Sun pill, his aura was progressing to an even higher level. Chapter 537. Using mystic techniques and ingesting pills like this was extremely taxing on his body. However, Lin had no other choice. In the face of the fear of becoming a eunuch for 10,000 years, he had to fight for his life. Starlight flashed within his illusionary star robe, and his aura concealment ability was fully activated. His aura began to climb explosively. Return to void initial stage, pinnacle of return to void initial stage, return to void intermediate stage, pinnacle of return to void intermediate stage, return to void final stage. A terrifying aura proliferated outward, causing the space within a radius of 1.5 kilometers to suddenly congeal. Even the 5 humanoid jade beasts faltered slightly before turning toward a certain direction. Gu Luo and Ao Mingyu shuddered before turning toward Lin with astonishment etched on their faces. This aura. How could this be? Guluo was in disbelief. No way. He must be using some kind of special treasure to fool us. Dazzling white lightning erupted from Ao Mingyu's body as an extremely powerful aura proliferated outward, as if he was trying to dispel the pressure emanating from Enlin's body. Enlin looked at everyone in the distance with a cold expression as he made his way toward the Golden Realm essence crystals. I didn't want to use this power, but you forced my hand. Anyone who dares to compete with me for the Realm essence crystals will die. A golden light flashed through his eyes as he spoke, and golden ripples proliferated outward with a paramount might, as if he were a god looking down upon the ants of this world. Everyone was astonished by this majestic aura, and Shui Zhantian yelled with excitement. Cassidy's eyes widened in astonishment. Is that our master? Merlin also stared at the scenes unfolding before his eyes with incredulity. Could it be that my master is an extremely powerful mighty figure? That makes sense. If he's not an extremely powerful mighty figure, his blood wouldn't be this delicious. How? Impossible. He's only a soul formation stage cultivator. What gives him the right to compete with me for the realm essence crystals? Ao Mingyu's dragon body danced through the air as a powerful dragon might erupted forth. He glared at the oncoming Enlin with undisguised hostility. You talk a lot of sh*t. Enlin made a grabbing motion toward Ao Mingyu. All of a sudden, the white lightning enshrouding Ao Mingyu's body converged to form a white lightning sword. The white lightning flashed with terrifying golden lightning imbued with the power of great destruction. The power contained in the white lightning sword was clearly more powerful than the lightning released by the white dragon itself. It instantly pierced through the white dragon's body with terrifying power. How? Ao Mingyu let loose a pained cry as lightning exploded and blood sprayed through the air. This attack was far too uncanny and sudden, and Ao Mingyu was caught completely off guard. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a cold breath. He was even able to control Ao Mingyu's own power, and he was even more powerful than Ao Mingyu. This strength was too terrifying. Gu Luo originally had a lot of doubts, but after seeing Enlin's move, most of his doubts disappeared. As expected of a return to Void final stage mighty figure, Enlin continued to walk toward the Golden Realm essence crystals, and no one dared to stop him. There was a gaping hole in Ao Mingyu's body, and he was panting heavily as he looked at Enlin with a hint of shock and horror in his eyes. Gu Luo wore a grave expression as he enshrouded himself in a barrier of water, as if he was guarding against Enlin's sudden attack. After a brief pause, the 5 humanoid jade beasts sprang into action again, completely unafraid of Enlin's terrifying aura. Their targets were the 3 people closest to the Golden Realm essence crystals. One of the humanoid jade beasts pounced toward Ao Mingyu, another pounced toward Gu Luo, and the other 3 charged directly toward Enlin. Holy Mother of God! Enlin was under immense pressure in that instant. Even though he was extremely nervous, his expression remained extremely calm and collected. He pulled out a snowball-like object nonchalantly before tossing it toward the 3 humanoid jade beasts. Puny jade beasts dare to stand in my way? Taste my heavenly frost palm. He had tossed out one of the snow explosion balls that he had stored in Qing Li's storage ring. These were disposable weapons refined by Meng Ji, and their power was equivalent to a full-force attack from a return to Void intermediate stage Snow Maiden. The snowball exploded in front of the 3 jade beasts. The blue explosion swept through the space within a radius of 10 miles, and the ground cracked and shattered. In that instant the entire world was filled with blue light, and then an extremely cold aura took the form of a sphere and instantly spread out for 5 kilometers, freezing everything. This was an explosive force followed by a freezing force. It was a double impact. The 3 jade beasts that bore the brunt of the blast were sent flying by the explosion. Then, they were frozen solid. Even Ao Mingyu and Gu Luo, who were situated several kilometers away, were forced to retreat with expressions of shock and horror on their faces. That man's heavenly frost palm is so terrifying! Gu Luo exclaimed in shock as he retreated. Ao Mingyu was extremely remorseful at this moment. He didn't think that the human male he had been looking down on was actually a return to void final stage mighty figure. Could it be that the human was afraid of the backlash from the laws of heaven and earth, so he deliberately suppressed his realm? That's right. That must be it. Ao Mingyu felt like he had discovered the truth, and he was already thinking about running away. Enlin took advantage of the time when the three humanoid jade beasts were knocked back and severely wounded to spread open his wings of wind and unleash his wind sword technique. His body instantly broke through the sound barrier and reached 8 times the speed of sound. His body transformed into a streak of white light, and he appeared before the Golden Realm essence crystals in just 3 seconds. Pluck, pluck, pluck. And Lin's hands transformed into a series of afterimages as he instantly stowed the 21 Golden Realm essence crystals into his storage ring. After plucking the Golden Realm essence crystals, he unleashed all of his power to flee into the distance. Expressions of grief and disappointment appeared on Ao Mingyu and Gu Luo's faces. However, they didn't dare to face Enlin head-on due to the power he had just displayed. Cracks had appeared on the pristine white surfaces of the 3 humanoid jade beasts that had been blasted flying by the snowball, but their auras did not diminish in the slightest. After seeing that Enlin had taken the Golden Realm essence crystals, they immediately gave chase again. What are you two still standing there for? Hurry up and help me! Enlin transmitted his voice with an enraged expression. Cassidy and Merlin recovered from their shock and turned to look at Enlin with confusion on their faces. Master, you're already so powerful, why do you still need help? Cassidy asked with a perplexed expression. The image of Enlin blasting the 3 jade beasts flying with his heavenly frost palm was still fresh in their minds. What a powerful palm strike that was! Master could easily take care of the jade beasts, so why did he still need them? There's a time limit to my power. That power is not tolerated by heaven and earth, so I can't use it for long. Hurry up and help me! Enlin explained in a panicked voice. Not tolerated by heaven and earth? So powerful, so domineering. Cassidy and Merlin's eyes lit up. Was their master already that bad *SS? No wonder he was intentionally suppressing his power. The 2 blood tribe mighty figures immediately flew toward Enlin to shield him from the 3 enraged jade beasts. Meanwhile, Enlin flew toward Shuizhantian and allowed him to escape into the distance. The origin energy of the netherworld mystic technique ended, and Enlin's body began to feel weak and feeble. Master, your performance just then was way too bad *SS. That kind of spirit that could swallow the mountains and rivers, and that he was the supreme one, was displayed to the fullest. I benefited immensely from it. Shuizhantian spoke with excitement. Of course. Don't you know who your master is? This is the renowned sword immortal Enlin. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face as he spoke with self-confidence and smugness, flexing in front of a bunch of return to void stage mighty figures. What an exhilarating experience! On top of that, he had also obtained 21 Golden Realm essence crystals. What a windfall! Chapter 538. It was supposed to be time for them to run after obtaining the Realm essence crystals. Enlin, Cassidy, and Merlin were all thinking the same thing, so they retreated as they fought. One of them was at the Return to Void intermediate stage, while the other was at the pinnacle of the Return to Void initial stage. This was more than enough to deal with the pursuit of the 3 jade beasts. However, something unexpected happened at this moment. A roar that sounded like that of an ancient ferocious beast suddenly erupted. A deafening sound wave swept through heaven and earth for close to 10 kilometers. A black shark over a kilometer in length materialized in the air before opening its gargantuan, bloodthirsty mouth before pouncing toward one of the jade beasts and swallowing it before self-detonating. A terrifying black energy exploded in a circular manner before wreaking havoc in the surrounding area. The humanoid jade beast in the shark's abdomen was torn apart by the energy from the shark's self-detonation before finally crumbling to the ground. Just as the jade beast crumbled, a shiny golden object appeared where its heart had been. Its light pierced through the darkness and was extremely dazzling in the void, causing everyone's eyes to light up. A golden realm essence crystal. The humanoid jade beast's heart was a golden realm essence crystal. And Lin took a deep breath before turning to Cassidy and Merlin. "Stop running. Your blood-tribe mighty figures, aren't you ashamed to be chased by a few jade beasts?" Even without Lin's reminder, Merlin and Cassidy's eyes had already lit up. Those were Golden Realm Essence crystals. One Golden Realm Essence crystal was equivalent to 1 drop of blood. How could they not be excited? The war banners waved through the air, and 100,000 souls materialized into a blood demon again before pouncing toward the jade beast. A crimson streak of light soared into the sky as a terrifying crimson sword slashed down upon the jade beast. An intense battle erupted once again. In order to secure the Golden Realm Essence crystals first, Cassidy and Merlin both unleashed their trump cards with all their might. The mountainous blood demon over 10,000 feet tall materialized a massive crimson saber. Energy surged violently, and the saber began to crackle with black lightning as a devastating power erupted from the blade. The blood demon raised its crimson saber, which was intertwined with black lightning, and slashed down upon the humanoid jade beast. Rumble! Heaven and earth exploded as the humanoid jade beast crashed straight into the blade. The golden light and the black lightning tore each other apart and exploded in the shape of a ball. Finally, the black lightning tore through the golden light, and the blood demon's broadsword broke through the defense of the humanoid jade beast. When the blade light landed on the white body of the jade beast, it directly shattered his body. Elsewhere, Cassidy's body transformed into a graceful black shadow as she evaded the humanoid jade beast's attacks relentlessly. Her crimson sword tore through space and slashed toward the jade beast relentlessly. Although her opponents were 2 humanoid jade beasts, she chose to capture one of the humanoid jade beasts and beat it to death. This was a sword cultivator of the Return to Void intermediate stage, who specialized in killing, and he had used a mystic technique to enhance his power. The speed of his crimson sword was so fast that it was almost impossible to follow. All one could see was a series of crimson afterimages tearing through space. Cassidy was able to slice a humanoid jade beast into over 100 pieces amidst the countless golden cannon blasts. The other jade beast didn't flee upon seeing this. Instead, it pounced toward Cassidy with even more fury. The result was quite obvious. This humanoid jade beast was also slain by her. Both Cassidy and Merlin had used mystic techniques to self-detonate their bodies, so their auras were a little feeble after killing their enemies. Their already fair complexions had become even paler. "Master, I'm anemic." Cassidy raised her brows at Lin as she spoke in a seductive, mellow voice. Lin rolled his eyes before slicing open his finger and tossing 4 milliliters of blood toward Cassidy. Cassidy caught the blood with an expression of elation on her face. "Master, this is twice as much. Is this an extra reward for my exceptional performance?" All right, she was so happy that she had even changed the way she addressed herself. "No. Even though you didn't receive the 21 Golden Realm Essence crystals directly, you still contributed to the process. Hence, the extra 2 milliliters is a reward for your efforts," Lin explained. Thus, Merlin also received 3 milliliters of blood. After consuming Lin's blood, the 2 blood tribe cultivators' faces were flushed red, and their bodies were completely invigorated. Lin stowed away the 3 Golden Realm Essence crystals. In addition to the 21 Golden Realm Essence crystals in his storage ring, he now had a total of 31 Golden Realm Essence crystals. Before he knew it, he had already completed a third of the mission, and Lin discovered that Cassidy and Merlin weren't in a hurry to leave after consuming their blood. Instead, they were looking behind them with menacing expressions. There, Ao Mingyu was engaged in a fierce battle with a humanoid jade beast, and it was difficult to determine a victor. "I think Ao Mingyu might need help," Merlin suggested. "I think we can kill Ao Mingyu as well." Cassidy was even more direct. "Unlin." Ao Mingyu transformed into a white dragon, and his dragon tail swept toward the humanoid jade beast with devastating force. The humanoid jade beast's fists were enshrouded in a golden light, and it was not fearful in the slightest as it threw a punch toward the dragon tail. The two attacks clashed, sending terrifying shockwaves through the air. Ao Mingyu was knocked back by the force of the punch, and the humanoid jade beast was also knocked flying by the dragon tail. The humanoid jade beast was comparable to a return to void initial stage mighty figure, so Ao Mingyu was not able to gain the upper hand in this clash. Ao Mingyu could actually use a mystic technique to kill the humanoid jade beast. That was an extremely fearsome lightning technique. However, he immediately backed down after recalling Enlin's uncanny lightning manipulation technique. He had provoked a powerful human mighty figure, and he was afraid that the lightning he summoned would target him again. Furthermore, that technique was extremely energy-consuming, and he didn't have any allies here, so he could easily be targeted. Ao Mingyu was still battling the humanoid jade beast when Gu Luo flew toward him with ulterior motives. In the distance, Cassidy and Merlin also flew toward him with even more ulterior motive. They were already preparing spell techniques. Indignation and resentment flashed through Ao Mingyu's eyes. He let loose an enraged roar as white clouds suddenly materialized around his body. Dragon Tribe Mystic Technique, Cloud Gallop, whoosh! Ao Mingyu's speed broke through the sound barrier as he abruptly fled into the distance. The humanoid jade beast wanted to give chase, but Ao Mingyu was simply too fast for it to catch up. Gu Luo had initially planned to capture this lone humanoid jade beast, but he hesitated momentarily at the sight of Cassidy and Merlin before giving up on that idea and fleeing in another direction. Cassidy and Merlin didn't give chase upon seeing the two of them fleeing so quickly. Instead, they pounced toward the final humanoid jade beast. The humanoid jade beast was very powerful, but it was still far too weak in the face of the combined attacks of two Blood Tribe return-to-void stage mighty figures. It was soon defeated, and the Golden Realm Essence crystals in its heart were extracted. Thus, Cassidy and Merlin each obtained 0.5 milliliters of holy blood. Enlin also obtained a Golden Realm Essence crystal, and he was elated. He now had a total of 32 Golden Realm Essence crystals. If other return-to-void stage mighty figures were to find out about this, they would probably piss themselves in fear. This was too shocking, okay? In the Void Star section, the total number of Golden Realm Essence crystals that an ancient power possessed probably couldn't even compare to Enlin's. He was a Realm Essence crystal tycoon. Luck had played a role in this bountiful harvest, so Enlin wasn't going to get too smug. He swallowed a blood chi pill before carving out a cave on a jade mountain before resting and waiting for the side effects of the origin energy of the netherworld to wear off. Chapter 539. This time, Enlin had taken pills and self-detonated, so he felt like he would need to rest for a few days before he could recover. However, much to his surprise, he was able to fully recover after only half a day. This was all due to the astonishing resilience and regenerative abilities of his body of the war god. Enlin even felt like if he could use the origin energy of the netherworld for a very short period of time, he would be able to avoid the side effects of being unable to circulate his vital energy. "Master, are you all right now?" Cassidy quickly accepted the fact that Enlin had to rest for a while after unleashing his full power. After all, the ancient Tai Chu realm didn't allow mighty figures of the return-to-void final stage or above to enter. If they did, they would suffer backlash from the power of the laws of heaven and earth. In her eyes, Enlin had forcefully exposed his true power and suffered backlash from the power of the laws of heaven and earth. This was a very logical deduction. "I'm fine now. Let's continue to search for Golden Realm Essence crystals." and Lin took a deep breath before swallowing another blood spirit pill. Only then did he begin to rise into the air atop his brick. Master, if you find it inconvenient to fly on your brick, I can fly with you in my arms. It's so warm and soft. Cassidy made her way over to Enlin with a seductive smile and puffed out her proud chest as she spoke in a gentle voice. Master, I can carry you too. Merlin immediately chimed in. Enlin's face convulsed as he shook his head. It's fine, I'll just carry little Tian. He hugged Shui Zhantian tightly as he spoke. Shui Zhantian was warm and soft to the touch. Shui Zhantian. Everyone continued to search for mountain nodes around the Jade Mountain to see if there were any strange places like the ones they had encountered earlier. Since they had to search along the way, they didn't use their spatial powers. Instead, they continued to fly in the air. They encountered a few jade beasts along the way, including tiger-shaped jade beasts, snake-shaped jade beasts, and falcon-shaped jade beasts. Unfortunately, they either didn't have any realm essence crystals within their bodies, or they were all white or green in color. After searching for an entire day, they still came up empty-handed. Perhaps we should go somewhere else. We've already explored the entire mountain range, Merlin said with a resigned expression. Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh. Do you know any other places that have a higher probability of finding realm essence crystals? There's a place that you should know about, Cassidy. A large number of realm essence crystals often appear there. However, that place is very perilous to humans as it's a favorite place of the Void Spirit tribe. Merlin was a little hesitant. What are you afraid of? Don't you know how powerful our master is? Cassidy retorted. You really don't know my strength. Enlin panicked a little. The Void Spirit tribe was the most peculiar tribe on the Tai Chu continent. They possessed all types of curses and soul techniques, and they could use tens of thousands of unimaginable methods to kill a person. Then what's the relationship between the Void Spirit tribe and your blood tribe? Enlin couldn't help but ask. They're neither friend nor foe. They won't fight when they meet, and they won't help when they encounter enemies. However, we can't rule out the possibility that they'll kick us when we're down, Cassidy explained. Enlin nodded. Let's go then. I'm now your mobile blood bank. I believe they won't take the initiative to provoke you and attack your blood bank. Merlin's chest constricted upon hearing this, and an indescribable sense of sorrow welled up in his heart. After a brief discussion, Merlin and Cassidy tore open a spatial rift and stepped into it with Enlin and Shui Zhantian in tow. Their destination was the central plate of the Void Star section, the Realm of Dead Spirits. The Realm of Dead Spirits was the name that everyone used to refer to this region. This region held an extremely important position in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Many mighty figures had explored this region and gathered information about it, and everyone believed that it was very likely that this was the central region of the ancient Tai Chu realm. The extremely prosperous region had now been reduced to dust. Only the countless specters remained in that area, roaming around non-stop. Some of them were violent and cruel, some of them had no desires, and some of them were filled with grief and sorrow. This could be said to be the most lively place in the ancient Tai Chu realm. It was filled with the voices of all types of wandering souls, and some of them could even converse with one another like normal living beings. The Void Spirit tribe members of the Void Spirit realm loved this place, as there were many delicious wandering souls here. Even though not all of the wandering souls could be eaten, they would always be ecstatic when they found one. Within an ancient city. This was a vast expanse of white and yellow buildings. Many of the buildings had already been eroded to the ground, and some of them had already been reduced to dust by the passage of time. A tall black tower stood at the center of the ancient city. It was constructed from some unknown material, but even after such a long time, it still showed no signs of decay. Instead, it was glowing like a firefly under the starry night sky. A black spatial rift appeared in the air. A seductive woman in a black robe arrived here with a man and a white ball in tow. Behind her, there was a man with short golden hair and a slightly thin figure. This is the realm of dead spirit. According to our calculations, we should be in the southwest direction of the realm of dead spirits, the woman said. And Lin looked down at the dilapidated ancient city down below. There were all types of courtyards and pavilions that stretched as far as the eye could see. Just from this alone, he could imagine how prosperous this place must have been in the past. Not only do we have to be wary of the Void Spirit tribe here, but we also have to be careful of falling into illusions. The illusions here are very powerful, and 2 Blood Tribe seniors were driven insane by the illusions here 2,000 years ago, Merlin cautioned. And Lin's heart jolted with shock upon hearing this. Most return to Void stage powerful beings had extremely powerful Tao heart. Even so, they were driven insane by the illusions here? Just how terrifying would the illusions be? I heard that fragments of the realm core will appear here. Master, how much blood is the reward for 1 fragment of the realm core? Cassidy looked at Lin with an expectant expression. And Lin was perplexed. What the F*CK was a fragment of the realm core. Before he had a chance to say anything, Merlin chuckled lightly. You still want to find fragments of the realm core? You sure know how to dream. Things like that can only be found by chance. After a round of exploration in the ancient Tai Chu realm, the 16 ancient powers may not even be able to find a single fragment of the realm core. And Lin was quite surprised to hear this. 10 milliliters of blood for 1 fragment of the realm core. Cassidy and Merlin both turned to look at Lin with peculiar expressions on their faces, as if they wanted to say something, but were hesitant to do so. Master, do you have some kind of misunderstanding regarding the realm core? Cassidy hesitated momentarily before deciding to speak. And Lin blinked with a sheepish expression. What is it? Is the price wrong? Merlin immediately provided an explanation. When a world collapses, the matter within it is converted into realm essence crystals, which can also be used to rebuild the world. The laws of that world and the Tao of all things converge to form the realm core. Fragments of the realm core are objects that have been infused with the laws of the world and the Tao of all things. It can be said that each and every fragment of the realm core is invaluable, regardless of whether it is used to construct the core of a world or to progress to the Tao integration stage. And Lin's eyes lit up upon hearing this. That sounded like it was going to be very valuable. But why didn't Emperor Ziwei mention this? Oh, right, this was something that could only be found in the Void Star section. Celestial immortals of the Return to Void stage should know about it, but it was useless for soul formation stage cultivators to know about it. And Lin pondered for a moment before replying, 30 milliliters of blood for 1 fragment of the realm core. Expressions of elation appeared on Cassidy and Merlin's faces upon hearing this. Let's go, Master. Let's go find the fragments of the realm core. Cassidy was extremely excited. No. Our priority is to find the Golden Realm Essence crystals. And Lin replied with a serious expression. That's true. Fragments of the realm core can only be found by chance, so we'll just have to go with the flow. Master is quite clear-headed. Merlin praised with a smile. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh in his heart. His lifeblood was the most important, so he had to be clear-headed. Chapter 540. As Lin walked along the streets of the ancient city, balls of twisted black energy flew past him, bringing with them bursts of bone-chilling cold. These balls of twisted black energy were unconscious spirits that roamed the city all day long. They wouldn't attack people of their own volition, but those with weaker consciousnesses could still be injured if they were to accidentally collide into them. Merlin's flag played a very important role in this situation. He used the flag to release a few powerful battle spirits to open up a path ahead of him. The wandering spirits seemed to be able to sense the killing intent imbued by the battle spirits and would all automatically avoid them. Steamed buns. Piping hot steamed meat buns. Sir, this is the most unique seafood restaurant in Qilu City. Would you like to come in and have a try? Come. The North Star Miscellaneous Goods Shop is a very honest shop. Young master, come over here. We have the prettiest girls here, one voice after another reverberated through the streets, as if they were recounting the bustling days of the past. And Lin didn't feel like there was anything to be afraid of. Instead, he looked around at the surrounding spirits with a hint of sympathy. He didn't really understand how these wandering souls existed, nor did he understand why these wandering souls, which even the Void Spirit tribe detested and refused to devour, existed. They weren't pure bodies of energy, nor were they true life forms. Instead, they were more like traces of life that had once existed. As they traversed through the ancient city, there were countless talking spirits everywhere. And Lin shook his head and heaved a light sigh with a hint of disappointment on his face. He had always felt that as a spirit, they should be very eerie and quiet, occasionally blowing cold winds into the ears of lone travelers to scare them. Wailing spirits all over the streets. What the F***ck? This was completely out of character. After walking for a while longer, a female spirit in a red dress with a deathly pale complexion suddenly emerged from the ground. The female spirit let loose a piercing shriek as soon as she appeared, and her piercing shriek caused the ground to crack open. And Lin and the others covered their ears while Merlin slapped the female spirit to death with a disgruntled expression. These types of special spirits seemed to drop some items after they were killed. For example, this female spirit dropped blue realm essence crystals after she was slapped to death. Not long after, a butcher who was more than 10 meters tall came out with a cleaver in his hand. The fat butcher let out a strange cry as he charged at Lin and the others. The kitchen knife in his hand rose and fell, creating a sharp sound as it sliced through the air. He was then slapped to death by Merlin with an impatient palm. After the apparition disappeared, a green realm essence crystal appeared on the ground. Who would have thought that such a large specter would drop something worse than the female specter? There were many monsters along the way. And Lin and the others pondered for a moment before heading straight for the Black Tower in the center of the ancient city. The pagoda was over 1,000 meters tall and extremely thick. It stood in the center of the ancient city like a giant pillar that could support the heavens. It's such an obvious tower. If there was anything good inside, it would have been taken long ago, right? And Lin said helplessly. However, Cassidy didn't seem to think so, and she said, "You're still underestimating the vastness of the Void Star section. There are many places that we only have a rough idea of, and there are still many unexplored and unknown places. Besides, even if a place has been plundered in the past, it's still possible for new realm essence crystals to appear after 500 years. Merlin also explained. They had already accepted the fact that their master was very bad *SS, but his knowledge of the Void Star section was very limited. Hence, they were very patient in their explanations. Before they knew it, they had arrived at the foot of the tower. To their surprise, there were 2 elderly men in red robes standing outside the tower. "Welcome, welcome, welcome, esteemed guests, to the Star-Plucking Tower." Such a polite welcome? And Lin's lips twitched. Logically speaking, this scene was very strange, especially when the city was filled with specters. As if they had heard Lin's words, the 2 elderly men in red robes spoke again. "Friends from afar." A tall and thin elderly man waggled his head. "How delightful!" A short and stocky elderly man chimed in. Shui Zhantian was also very excited. "Master, these 2 elderly men don't look like idiotic spirits. They're so interesting, full of wit and endless profundities." Merlin raised a hand with an impatient expression. "Why don't we just slap them to death?" And Lin felt like Merlin was right. To think that there were people in the ancient Tai Chu realm who could recite the Analects of Earth. He was just about to nod in agreement when the 2 elderly men became excited again. "Woo-woo, eat the apple of the wild." The tall and thin elderly man waggled his head. "I have guests to play the lute and the flute," the stocky elderly man chimed in. His voice had only just fallen when the stocky elderly man pulled out a guqin from somewhere before slapping his hands onto the strings. Merlin's hand was also extremely fast. Almost at the exact same moment, his massive crimson palm descended from the sky with a vast and powerful aura. The crimson palm hadn't even reached the ground, but a massive palm indentation had already appeared on the ground. The tall and thin elderly man unleashed a fist toward the massive palm in the sky. His fist caused spatial cracks to appear all over the place, and the space around him was twisted into an oblate shape. The monstrous power behind his fist shattered the massive crimson palm, and the shock waves created by the fist proliferated outward for close to 10 kilometers, causing even the black pagoda to tremor slightly. "But you don't reciprocate." The tall and thin elderly man remained calm and collected. "You're molesting me," the stocky elderly man interjected. The tall and thin elderly man extended 2 index fingers and abruptly jabbed his own temple. The stocky elderly man plucked the strings of his guqin. Whoosh! A peculiar sound wave proliferated outward. The space around them twisted and warped as boundless energy and matter enshrouded the entire space. "Be careful! This is a forced illusionary realm," Cassidy yelled in a panicked voice. And Lin's heart jolted with shock upon hearing this, and he immediately unleashed a defensive spell technique to enshroud his body. However, in the next instant, he felt as if his head had been struck by the sound wave. Then, in a trance, everything around him changed. The bright sun shone down upon the earth, and a light breeze blew past as all types of scents began to waft through the air. There was the scent of buns, the scent of noodles, and even the scent of rouge from a woman walking past him. That's right, he was surrounded by a bustling crowd. And Lin blinked in bewilderment as he looked around at the vibrant and bustling streets before him. "Hee, Mom, buy me a candied haw. I want that." A crisp, pleasant voice sounded. An adorable little girl with braided hair tugged on the hand of a woman as she spoke to a vendor on the side of the road with an excited expression. All right, I'll get it for you right away." A warm smile appeared on the woman's face as she led the little girl toward the vendor. Out of the way, out of the way!" Just as Lin was feeling a little dazed, his body was suddenly pushed to the side. Then, a wooden hand-pulled cart filled with goods slowly pulled past him. This was a very realistic feeling. Regardless of whether it was the scene before him, the sounds, the sense of touch, the sense of smell, or the flow of vital energy, everything was extremely realistic, as if he were in a real world. However, Lin knew that this was all an illusion. No matter how realistic it was, he had already determined in his heart that this was an illusionary realm. However, Lin was starting to get a headache. He knew that this was only an illusionary realm that the 2 red-robed elderly men had used against him, but how was he supposed to break through this illusionary realm? He had no idea. Chapter 541. Lin fell into a daze. He had never learned any spell technique that could break through illusions. Could he break through this illusion with brute force? Use absolute brute force to break through this illusion? Lin's storage ring flashed, and the evil slaying sword appeared in his hand. Thankfully, his power and cultivation base didn't seem to be affected, which made things a lot easier. At this moment, he was going to blast a hole in the sky. "Husband!" It was also at this moment that an extremely pleasant and familiar voice sounded. Lin's body trembled as he turned to look. There, a woman in a jade dress stood with a wide smile on her face, and her beautiful features were extremely enchanting under the sunlight. She stood there as if nothing else mattered to her. Lin only had eyes for her. The appearance of that beautiful woman had completely tugged at Lin's heartstrings. Lin drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing the way she had addressed him. "Su Xiaolan, you're calling me husband?" Lin's mouth gaped open as he stammered. Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed slightly as she rebuked. "Lin, what do you mean by that? If I don't call you husband, what should I call you?" Lin's heart skipped a beat upon hearing this. Holy sh*t. Wife. And Lin pounced toward her excitedly. However, his pouncing body was pushed away by Su Xiaolan with a blush on her face. We're on the streets and there are so many people around. Can't you keep a low profile? And Lin nodded repeatedly. All right, I'll keep a low profile. He held on to Su Xiaolan's soft hand as he spoke, and they began strolling on the streets. Su Xiaolan didn't refuse. Instead, she looked at An Lin with a judgmental expression. Have you bought the tool refinement materials that I asked you to buy? All right, wife, let's go buy them now. An Lin faltered momentarily before replying. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes at An Lin and pulled him towards the Star-Stone Pavilion. Wife, what happened? Nothing, I just want to shout a few more times. You should call me husband a few more times. I want to hear it. Crazy. An Lin was very happy because he and Su Xiaolan had actually become Dao companions. This feeling of happiness really moved people to tears. He knew that this was just an illusion. However, this very real environment and very real people made him feel a little reluctant. For some reason, he wanted to enjoy this kind of time a little longer. Most of the surrounding houses and pavilions were yellow and white wooden structures, looking extremely exquisite and beautiful. There were also some buildings made of white jade bricks that were 5 or 6 stories tall. There were some unknown totems carved on the surface, and they looked very beautiful. The most eye-catching thing was the black tower in the center of the city. It pierced straight into the clouds, and under the illumination of the 2 suns, it actually reflected a colorful brilliance. That's right, the location of this illusion was none other than Qi-Lu City. The 2 red-robed elderly men didn't seem to be hiding anything from him. They wanted him to know where he lived and what kind of life he led. Crackle, crackle, a series of firecrackers sounded as a mature and dignified groom rode down the street on horseback. Behind him was a grand wedding procession. 8 bearers carried an exquisitely decorated sedan chair behind the groom, and joyous music began to play along the way. Huh? Who's having a wedding today? It's young Master Qin Zhan from the Qin family. He's going to marry Wang Lele from the Wang family today. They're a match made in heaven. They've been together for 12 years, and they've finally come to fruition today. I heard they're holding a banquet at Fortune Inn, and everyone in the city can attend. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go and grab a seat. The onlookers on the street discussed spiritedly. An Lin was also affected by the festive atmosphere, and he couldn't help but tighten his grip on Su Xiaolan's hand. His heart was filled with joy and sweetness. Under the starry night sky, the black tower was still standing. Outside the tower, there were 3 people and a snow soul beast bound by some unknown black tree branches. All of them had their eyes tightly shut, and serene smiles appeared on their faces, as if they were having a beautiful dream. The short and rotund elderly man had just finished playing his piece, but the music still lingered in the air, as if even heaven and earth were unwilling to let this piece of music die down. Let's go, LV Ching, carry them away, the short and rotund elderly man instructed. The tall and rotund elderly man nodded before making a grabbing motion toward the 3 people and 1 beast who had fallen into a deep slumber on the ground. The black tree branches wriggled, and the 3 people and 1 beast on the ground floated into the air. The tall and rotund elderly man began to walk into the black tower. The 3 people and 1 beast were also bound by the black tree branches, and they slowly followed behind him, disappearing into the darkness. The short and rotund elderly man stowed away his zither-like musical instrument before looking up at the starry night sky with a profound expression. A land of warmth and tenderness. This is a place where one is willing to sink into even if they know it's fake. Isn't the purpose of life to be happy and to realize one's dreams? If everything in one's mind could be realized in an illusion, and the senses of an illusion were exactly the same as reality, then what was the difference between an illusion and reality? Perhaps the difference is that illusionary realms are more blissful? All of a sudden, a hint of confusion appeared on the short and rotund elderly man's face. Am I imagining things? Why do I feel like something's different? Lin and Su Xiaolan went to the Star Stone Pavilion to purchase a pile of tool refinement materials before making their way home. Lin, I feel like something's different about you. Su Xiaolan held onto Lin's hand with furrowed brows as she cocked her little head to the side to look at Lin. Wife, call me husband. Lin spoke with a serious expression. Su Xiaolan. Wife, what do you think is different about me? Lin asked with a hint of interest in his voice. You've become even more wretched than before. Su Xiaolan chuckled. Lin was surprised. Who would talk about their husband like that? Su Xiaolan waved her hand. All right, I don't care if you're wretched or not. I'm already married to you, so I can only accept my fate. Let's go home. Lin was very touched upon hearing this. He suddenly thought of something. Wifey, can we do that tonight? What? Su Xiaolan blinked her beautiful eyes as she asked curiously. That is the exercise that husband and wife often do at night. Lin replied in a low voice. Su Xiaolan seemed to have sensed what Lin was talking about, and a blush appeared on her delicate and fair face. Her face was like a delicious red apple that one couldn't help but want to kiss. How can you say this in public? Are you crazy? She glared at Lin with a reproachful expression as she pinched Lin's waist with her slender fingers. Gasped. Lin was struck by quite a bit of pain. He hurriedly smiled apologetically. All right, let's talk at home. By the way, where is our home? Lin came to his senses and suddenly asked. Su Xiaolan. So not only have you become wretched, but you've also lost your mind. Although Su Xiaolan was a little grumpy, she still brought Lin to their home. It was a very large courtyard that looked extremely familiar. The signboard was still the Lan Lin courtyard. Young Master Lin, you're back. Do you want to eat cherries? The cherries have ripened recently, so we bought a lot of them. They're currently in the kitchen. A beautiful young woman walked over with a wide grin. This young woman was also very familiar, and Lin thought for a moment before finally remembering who she was. Her name was Little Chiu. Big brother, why did you spend so much time shopping today? We're all waiting for you to start eating, woof. Dabai ran out from the courtyard with an enraged expression. Lin looked at his familiar beast pet. Xiao Hong was swaying its bright red head from side to side as it continued to photosynthesize in a carefree manner. Shui Zhantian was acting cute to the 4 spring, summer, autumn, and winter maids, and the adorably ugly clown was playing with the little wolf with a banana as they chased each other around the courtyard. Everything was so peaceful and tranquil. Little Lin, Xiaolan, come on in. Yudi has already finished cooking. It's her signature braised pork knuckle. Mingchuan walked out of the hall with a smile on his face as he spoke to Lin. Lin faltered upon hearing this, and his eyes widened as his breathing accelerated. Dad, who were you talking about? He asked in a trembling voice. Little Lin, what are you waiting for? Come on in, the food is getting cold, a warm and pleasant voice sounded. Immediately afterward, a woman walked out. She wore a white dress and looked at Lin with a warm smile on her face. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and doting. Lin stared blankly at the woman before him as waves of shock surged through his heart. The memories buried deep in his heart became clearer, and tears began to flow from his eyes. Mom! Chapter 542. Lin's mother was called Mu Yudi, who died in a sudden car accident. It was also because of that car accident that his father began to be depressed. In order to vent his emotions, he contracted the habit of gambling. After that, his father lost all his fortune and was still in debt of millions. Lin was caught by the debt collectors, and then he met the mysterious immortal, and from then on embarked on the road of cultivation. All of this could be said to be interlinked. Without any of the links, there could not be the current Lin. However, Now his mother suddenly appeared in front of Lin. Resurrection from the dead? No. All of this was fake, an illusory world. How could there be resurrection from the dead? But Lin stared at his mother's face in front of him, feeling the breath, listening to her words, for fear that she would disappear again. So similar, really similar, whether it was the smile or the voice, it was no different from the appearance in his memory. Lindsay, why are you crying? Mu Yudi frowned, walked over and pulled Lin's hand, and asked with concern, what happened? Su Xiaolan was also given a fright, and she stared at Lin with confusion on her face. Lin wiped his tears, resisted the urge to rush over and hug his mother, and shook his head. Nothing, just remembered some sad past. Let's go in and eat. In the dining room, the big plate of braised pork knuckle was placed together with some other dishes, particularly conspicuous. Lin remembered that when he was a child, he was very picky about his food, especially thin. At that time, his mother made up her mind to study how to cook pork knuckle. It was said that eating pork knuckle would make you gain weight. Aren't you thin? Aren't you picky about your food? See how I feed you. Then, the delicious braised pork knuckle was born, and his mother succeeded in conquering Lin's stomach with cooking. Lin, who was in junior high school, became 80 kilograms from 80 kilograms. Then his mother decided not to make braised pork knuckle for Lin to eat. When Lin heard the news, he, a fatty who weighed more than 50 kilograms, burst into tears like a child. It was really embarrassing. In order to eat braised pork knuckle again, Lin worked hard to lose weight. He finally lost weight during high school. Mrs. An also promised to make braised pork knuckle for him after the college entrance examination. At that time, he had made a good plan. After all, he wouldn't be able to go home when he was in university. Even if he ate pork knuckles every day, he wouldn't get fat. In the end, an accident happened after the college entrance examination. The delicacy that Lin had yearned for many years would never be able to taste again. Lin sat on the chair, picked up a pork knuckle with his chopsticks, and gnawed on it. Fresh, smooth and fragrant, fat but not greasy, it was the same familiar smell, the same familiar formula, and the same taste that he had been longing for. Why did the taste of pork knuckle feel so real here? It was obviously fake. He had almost forgotten what it tasted like. He only remembered that it was very delicious. Why was this braised pork knuckle able to evoke the taste in his memories? Why was it so similar to the pork knuckle his mother had once made? Tears streamed down Lin's face once again. Su Xiaolan, Mingchuan, and Mu Yudi were all dumbstruck. Why was he crying again? Little Lin, are you really alright? And Mingchuan couldn't help but ask. And Lin immediately shook his head. I'm fine, it's just that the pork knuckle is so delicious that I'm crying. And Mingchuan's face convulsed slightly. Please find a better excuse. A warm smile appeared on Mu Yudi's face as she picked up a piece of pork knuckle and placed it into Lin's bowl. Then eat more. Mom will make more for you in the future. You're a cultivator now anyway, so you won't get fat from eating too much. And Lin nodded with a sour expression as he picked up a second piece of braised pork knuckle and began eating. Before he knew it, he had eaten more than half of the large plate of pork knuckle. After reuniting, his family began to chat with one another. They talked about running the clinic, as well as interesting news about Chi Lu City and the entire Tai Chu continent. And Lin cherished this period of time very much, even though he knew that it was all fake. However, he still felt a sense of warmth from their interactions. Was there anything better than having the people closest to him and the people he loved the most by his side? After dinner, the stars shone in the sky. And Lin walked into the courtyard and looked up at the moonless night sky with a myriad of thoughts running through his mind. You're acting a little strange today. A gentle, pleasant voice sounded beside his ear again. And Lin turned around to discover a pair of beautiful eyes staring back at him. Her features were a little less vibrant and enchanting under the dazzling starlight, but a hint of gentleness appeared on her face instead. That's right, I've suddenly become sentimental. Lin smiled. You're not being too sentimental. Su Xiaolan cocked her head to the side as a complex smile appeared on her face. I feel like you're not him. Lin's eyes widened as he stared at Su Xiaolan with incredulity etched on his face. Never would he have thought that Su Xiaolan would say something like this. Are you surprised? A faint smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face as she said, In the beginning, I also thought that you were just having some emotional issues. However, I later discovered that even though you're Lin, you're not the Lin that I know. Her eyes shifted slightly as if she was thinking about how to phrase her words. You have the same appearance and personality as him, but you're like an Lin with a different set of experiences. Lin was truly astonished this time as a peculiar feeling welled up in his heart. Was this an illusion or reality? What kind of world was this? You're still that smart and understanding, Xiaolan. Lin smiled as he admitted his identity. Then can you tell me about the Lin that you know? Su Xiaolan narrowed her eyes with a smile. I'd love to, but you have to return Lin to me after that. Lin smiled awkwardly. I'm Lin, but you're not the Lin that shares memories with me. If it weren't for the fact that your eyes are so familiar, I would have thought that you've been possessed. Su Xiaolan glared at Lin. Lin was a little speechless as he nodded. All right, after I leave this place, your Lin should be able to come back. Su Xiaolan began to recount how she and Lin had met. They had met in the divine court of the human race on this continent, and they were disciples from the same sect. They became acquainted, and experienced a series of unforgettable events. The two of them finally became Dao partners on the 100th year after they met. It was also at that time that Lin revealed his biggest secret. He actually came from a faraway planet, and he wasn't a native of this Taichu continent. Instead, he had transmigrated here. Su Xiaolan didn't mind this, and she and Lin brought his parents over to this continent. They held a wedding ceremony with them as witnesses, and they lived happily ever after on this continent. This was a very long story, and Lin was a little dumbstruck after hearing it all. It was a completely different yet equally spectacular experience, and there were also some unforgettable memories that only the two of them could share. The environment on Earth was the same, but it was a different Taichu continent. After hearing Su Xiaolan's story, he felt like either this was true, or those two red-robed elderly men were great scriptwriters. How King difficult was it to create an illusionary realm to this extent? Lin heaved a long sigh, and a complex expression appeared on his face as he looked at the woman before him. Another Lin? Another Su Xiaolan? There were also beast pets and friends who had been brought together by fate. Their experiences were different, but their personalities were the same. Another Lin. Lin was a little envious of him. This was probably the happiest life he could imagine. But none of this was his, after all. Perhaps, regardless of whether it was reality or illusion, it was time for him to bid farewell to this world. Chapter 543. Everything here was so realistic, and in Lin's mind, the line between illusion and reality became more and more blurry. The thought of staying here flashed through his mind for a split second, but he quickly cast it aside. Even if all of the living beings in this world were real, Xiaolan, his friends, and his family were all waiting for him in the other world. How could he leave this place? So the question was, how was he going to get back? Lin's brows furrowed in thought. He had actually heard that some illusionary realms could be broken by killing all of the people that one knew in the illusionary realm and severely wounding the core of the illusionary realm. But was this really an illusionary realm? Even if it was an illusionary realm, Lin couldn't bring himself to kill all of his family, friends, and loved ones. Also, what if they were real? Divine inspection technique. Lin's eyes suddenly became a vast expanse of white as he surveyed his surroundings, trying to find a flaw in this world. However, to his disappointment, there were no signs of spell techniques here. Let's see if I can use my power to break through this world, origin energy of the netherworld. Black mist suddenly erupted from his body, and his aura soared explosively. At the same time, golden void lightning revolved around his evil-slaying sword as he slashed a dazzling sword strike toward the sky. The terrifying golden void lightning sword projection lit up the entire night sky, and it soared into the sky amid a sharp screech before flying higher and higher into the sky. After flying for what seemed like an eternity, the lightning energy began to slowly dissipate. It was useless, and Lin deactivated the origin energy of the netherworld with a dejected expression on his face. Lin, do you not know how to get back? Su Xiaolan could guess what was going on from Lin's expression, and a concerned expression appeared on her face. An awkward smile appeared on Lin's face, and a thought suddenly occurred to him as he pulled out his vermilion bird mirror. Mirror, mirror, tell me where I am, and how do I get back? The vermilion bird mirror shuddered slightly, and a tender voice sounded, Master, you're on the Tai Chu continent. Get back? Where? Get your wife to lead the way, and don't bother me. Lin, Su Xiaolan covered her mouth and laughed. You still dare to ask the mirror questions? It's not like you don't know her bad temper. If you continue talking, she'll choke you until you can't even sleep well. Lin's mouth twitched. My mirror can't be that irritable. Hearing this, Su Xiaolan seemed to realize something, and a look of disappointment appeared on her face. Yeah, you're not him. Lin didn't have time to sigh. He was still thinking of a way to break out of this situation. A thought suddenly occurred to him, and he looked up at the black tower at the center of Qi Lu City. Xiaolan, I'm leaving now. Lin rose into the air atop his brick. Lin, you'll definitely come back, right? Him or you. Su Xiaolan's beautiful eyes looked at Lin in the air as she spoke anxiously. Lin's body trembled slightly as he turned to look at the woman below. The woman stood silently under the starlight with tears shimmering in her eyes. Lin's heart jolted, but he didn't say anything. He merely nodded at the woman before flying toward the Black Tower. Qi Lu City was brightly lit at night, and the streets were bustling with activity, as if it were a city that never slept. There was also a white light flashing at the top of the Black Tower, as if it were a divine tower that illuminated the night sky. Lin arrived at the gate of the Black Tower, and to his surprise, there really were two red-robed guards. One was tall and thin, while the other was short and chubby. These two guards were quite young and not as elderly as the guards he had encountered before, but from their facial features, Lin could tell that they were the two elderly men he had encountered before. You're here, how do you feel? The short and chubby guard forced a smile onto his face at the sight of Lin, as if he wasn't surprised at all. Lin faltered slightly as a peculiar feeling welled up in his heart. Who are you? And what is this place? The short and chubby guard explained, We are the guardians of Qi Lu City. No, to put it more accurately, we are the guardians of the entire Yanglu nation. As you can see, this is the Tai Chu continent's Qi Lu City. Lin chuckled coldly. Qi Lu City has been reduced to rubble a long time ago. This world is merely an illusionary realm. The short and chubby young man shook his head. What is reality? What is an illusionary realm? If everything you see and feel is completely true, then how could it be called an illusion? The tall and thin young man also turned to Lin. You have two choices now. You can work hard to assimilate into this world. That way, you'll be the only Lin, and you'll be able to live here happily ever after. You can also kill everyone you know to sever this karma. That way, you'll be able to sever everything in this world and return to your original world. Lin's heart jolted upon hearing this, but he then seemed to have realized something, and a faint smile appeared on his face. They were speaking as if they were telling the truth. They said he only had two choices, so did that mean he only had two choices? Lin wasn't going to believe this. He still had a trump card that he hadn't used yet. Divine simulation technique. Countless stars flashed past Lin's eyes, and in the end, this entire world was reflected in his eyes. Colorless ripples began to proliferate outward, reflecting every single detail of this entire world. Countless pieces of information began to flow into his mind. Reasonable, unreasonable, the two red-robed young men's expressions both shifted. At this moment, the ground had already cracked open. Lin leaped up and shot toward the top of the Black Tower like a cannonball. The origin energy of the netherworld instantly erupted, and golden void lightning revolved around his evil-slaying sword as he slashed down toward the Black Tower. The top of the Black Tower, which was flashing with a white light, was struck by the lightning sword projection, and the entire night sky was dyed golden by the explosion of golden lightning. Countless residents of Qi Lu City turned to look at the golden lightning on the tower with astonishment and bewilderment on their faces. Within the Lan Lin courtyard, Mu Yudi held onto Minchuan's hand as they looked up at the tower in the distance. The golden lightning there had already exploded to form a dazzling and beautiful golden ball of lightning. Boom! The tip of the Black Tower was shattered by Lin's sword projection. The space around him began to twist and shatter. In Lin's eyes, heaven and earth began to dim and blur, his vision darkened, and he fell unconscious again. The two red-robed young men wore complex expressions as they watched Lin disappear from this world. The stocky young man shook his head and heaved a forlorn sigh. So be it. My heart doesn't belong to this world, so why force it to stay? The tall and thin young man nodded. Since I've already given up on pursuing the illusion of a dream, how can it become real? Within a vast expanse of inky darkness, Lin's body shuddered as he began to regain consciousness. He opened his eyes to find a vast expanse of white in front of him. How dazzling! Upon closer inspection, he discovered that this was a fragment that was glowing with a white light. The fragment seemed to be both real and illusionary at first glance, and it looked like a solid object. However, when one thought it was solid, it became illusory. When one thought it was illusory, it became solid again. Lin blinked with curiosity. What was this? Chapter 544. Lin didn't know what the white fragment hovering in midair was, but he could tell from its appearance that it was definitely not an ordinary fragment. He was just about to rise to his feet to take care of it when he discovered that his body had been bound by a peculiar type of black tree branch and was completely immobilized. Crap, what is this? Why can't I even use any strength? Lin struggled with all his might, only to find that he couldn't muster up any strength at all. He couldn't even circulate his vital energy. The black tree branch wound around his body, and there was also a thick tentacle extending outward, connecting directly to the bottom of the white fragment before merging into a black stone formation. It's over, this is definitely some kind of evil ritual. Lin was already envisioning himself becoming a sacrifice, having his blood drained, and becoming a desiccated corpse. He turned to discover Cassidy, Merlin, and Shui Zhantian were also bound by the black tree branch, and they were all still unconscious. They wore sweet smiles on their faces, clearly indicating that they had also entered some kind of beautiful illusionary realm. Aside from them, Lin saw three other people. One of them was an extremely handsome man with short golden hair with a pair of pristine white wings on his back and a golden bracelet around his neck. One of them was a burly man in a red robe with a golden buzz cut, and his hands were crimson. The last one was an exquisitely beautiful woman in a blue robe with a blue lower body and a blue fishtail. Even though her eyes were tightly shut, one would still be struck by her beauty. Lin pondered for a moment to determine that the man with short golden hair was most likely a Light Wing Clan mighty figure, while the mermaid-like woman was most likely a Spirit Fish Clan mighty figure. As for the man with the buzz cut, he's mine from now on. They had also fallen into a deep slumber, so it appeared that Lin was the only one who had awakened. As expected, I'm still the most powerful. Lin suddenly heaved a forlorn sigh as he felt invincible. However, what was the use of being powerful? He still couldn't escape from the tree branch. And Lin didn't think that these two red-robed elderly men would be the most terrifying bosses here. How did they manage to capture so many Return to Void stage mighty figures for no apparent reason? What were they planning? And Lin didn't feel like that was important. What was important was to get out of here as quickly as possible. Oi! Little Tian, wake up! And Lin did not dare to shout loudly. He could only call out softly. Little Ku! Wake up! Cassidy, Merlin! Stop sleeping, wake up! A sleeping person could be woken up, but how could a person trapped in an illusion be woken up so easily? After 2 tries, Lin gave up on this method and switched to another one. Cassidy, Merlin! I plan to give you all 1 gene of divine blood. Lin raised his voice and shouted. Rumble! His voice was like a clap of thunder, causing the 2 of them to tremble. Those who fell into the illusion would have their spiritual consciousness transported to a fabricated dimension, but this did not mean that their organs would not receive information from the outside world. Once the stimulation of the information was strong enough, it might really affect their consciousness. As expected, both of them showed signs of waking up. Get up. I'll give you 3 seconds. After that, 1 gene of divine blood will be gone. Lin continued. Cassidy's brows furrowed tightly as her lips trembled. No. Master. I'm going to eat you. Merlin licked his lips. Don't run, Master. Let me suck you dry first. Lin's lips twitched. Just what kind of servants had he taken in? Ha ha. Lin. I've finally killed you. Shui Zhantian suddenly chortled with glee. Lin was dumbstruck. He felt like he had just heard something unthinkable. Why did Shui Zhantian want to kill him? And why did he want to kill him? This was most likely a fake beast pet as well. Cassidy and Merlin opened their bleary eyes with confused expressions on their faces. Cassidy came to her senses with a hint of lingering fear on her face. You're back? That was way too scary. I knew it was an illusion, but I couldn't help but enjoy it. If it weren't for that indistinct voice, I probably wouldn't have woken up either. Me too. Merlin nodded in agreement. Cassidy stared at Lin with glowing eyes. Master, I think I heard you say you were going to give us 1 gene of divine blood. Me too. Merlin nodded in agreement as he stared at Lin with a scorching light in his eyes. Lin chuckled. That was the voice of the illusion. I didn't say anything. Cassidy pursed her lips. The voice of the illusion? Is this illusion crazy? Why would it use that kind of voice to wake me up? That illusion really might be crazy. The people inside were trying to persuade me to leave. Lin pursed his lips. What he said was the truth. The Su Xiaolan in the illusionary realm seemed to have broken the rules. She had awakened him from his illusionary realm, and he no longer yearned to return to his own world. Even though he insisted that it was just an illusion, the feeling of reality made him believe in the bottom of his heart. Perhaps there really was a world that had such a beautiful possibility. Cassidy and Merlin couldn't do anything about Lin's decision to go back on his word. After all, they had only been able to break out of the illusion thanks to that voice. Right at this moment, Shui Zhantian also opened his big, round eyes with excitement on his face. Congratulations, I did it! What did you do? Lin asked with a dark expression. Shui Zhantian wasn't woken up by his words. It was quite clear that he had broken out of the illusion with his own power. Shui Zhantian faltered slightly at the sight of Lin before an awkward smile appeared on his face. Master, it's nothing. I was just saying. I broke out of the illusion. Why did I hear you say you were going to hack me to death? Why are you so happy? Did you succeed and hack me to death? Lin asked with a fake smile. Shui Zhantian's entire body shuddered upon hearing this, and he fell to his knees as he yelled, I'm innocent. Flying snow in June. I only decided to hack you to death because I knew that master was a fake. All be asterisk cheese who dare to impersonate master deserve to die 1,000 times over. And Lin rolled his eyes and couldn't be bothered to respond to Shuizhantian's whining. This debt would be settled after they got out of here. We're all trapped here now, so let's think of a way out. And Lin immediately suggested upon seeing that all of his team members had awakened. Cassidy and Merlin didn't react. Instead, they stared blankly at the white fragment before them. You guys also think this thing is extraordinary, right? I think so too. And Lin felt like they had good taste. It's far more than extraordinary, Merlin murmured. This is a fragment of the realm core. Cassidy swallowed as if she were about to pounce on it. And Lin was dumbstruck. Holy F***ck. So that's a fragment of the realm core.